All right, welcome into the Ryan Ripken Show. Happy Monday and almost Happy New Year. Hey, look, we got a jam-packed show for you in a lot of different ways. We're going to close out the year 2024 later on in the show. It has been a year in review, and for the Ryan Ripken Show, fellas, this is actually our first full year of covering content, and we're so glad we're able to do it with all of you, so thank you very much. But earlier on, before we get into the fun stuff there, let's talk about what's on the docket for today's show. The first hour, we're going to stick to strictly football. And a lot has happened and unfolded here over the last, 2 or 3 days. And the path is clear for Baltimore. We'll talk about that. And we're going to have former Super Bowl champion and Baltimore Raven Qadry Ismail on momentarily to talk about a little bit this journey ahead for Baltimore and to break down the play of one unsung Raven who has made all the difference in the world for a team that has really started to hit its stride, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. And then, you know what? Pat McAfee, we know his allegiance, guys, is with the Colts. He held nothing back, and I told you guys this before. The Colts loss on Sunday arguably is the worst loss in the NFL this year, and for a lot of different reasons, especially if you put some stock in their fantasy defense, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll wait on that one. And we'll touch a little bit on now. It's finally the last week of the regular season, the MVP race with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Still, people have some opinions, and some are still leaning one way more than the other. I guess you guys can put 2 and 2 together of who that might be. And then the second hour is about baseball. Corbin Burnes was the big move that was made in the middle of the night. But what's going to happen after that? And honestly, there's actually a former president of a Major League Baseball organization talking about the struggles you can have, even in a big market, to sign free agents, because even though people don't want to believe this, players have their own agendas. So we'll touch on that and a lot more if we got time for call-ins. That's a whole lot. But guys, fellas, we got Brad, Zach, Kevin. Brad, how we doing?
Good, Brad. Ready to talk some ball.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's crazy. The year's almost over. It feels like just yesterday we were talking about opening day for the Orioles.
I know. It is kind of wild.
So many championships, fantasy championships coming down to tonight. I need
How many fantasy championships were ruined by the Colts defense?
Guilty. It's tough.
Starting the Colts. Actually, the one league I'm like feeling less. I just need to avoid a 43-point game from George Kittle and I win. In that championship, I'm going to survive while starting the Colts defense and Terry McLaurin.
Wow.
You deserve a medal.
Yeah, it's just thank you, T. Higgins. Thank you, T. Higgins.
I had 7. So in the big money one, I had Dicker. 17. I'm thinking, wow, it's going to be a great time. And then, I don't know, the Colts allow 45 points. But then I was in the Holy Shirts and Pants League, by the way, Laura.
So they allowed 45 points against a team who hasn't scored 30 all season long.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew Lock might be the quarterback of the future. That's what it made it seem like the other day.
No longer able to pick the best one they want at number 1 at the moment. So
if I have to watch another screen pass get housed like 60 yards again,
man, and I mean we should give them a round of applause. This was their first win at home all season.
It was.
Congratulations!
I can't wait to talk about all that and more. And Laura, I'm aware Laura's team in the Holy Shirts and Pants League about put up 200,000 points on me.
Holy shit.
She had, I got to look at the lineup. I know she had T. Higgins, and that team just ripped out my soul. I don't even know if the Colts scoring 2 points, 20 points would have done anything, but I digress. We'll touch on that a lot more in the future. But guys, hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel in the process here. Look, it was a nice, relaxing weekend, in this case, for the Ravens. You didn't have to worry about anything. You knew where everything was standing going into this week. The only thing that we didn't know, and we'll just touch on this before having our guest join us, Kev, was just what time the Ravens were going to be playing. And the Ravens are going to play the Browns, just like the Steelers and Bengals. All that's happening Saturday, right, Kev? Can you give us a little rundown of what it's looking like?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked it went this way, but maybe not so shocked because of Hard Knocks. I guess they wanted a day for the division, but it's going to be Saturday, 4:30 Eastern, Ravens and Browns, and then right after that, it's the Steelers and Bengals at 8. So the Ravens,
AFC North Saturday.
Yeah, they'll Steelers will know if the Ravens win the division or not by the time that they play. And I think for a team that had 3 games in 11 days, they would give them some more time off.
I hate this because if the Ravens will win, and then the Steelers can rest all their players.
Yeah.
It depends on the matchup if they'd want the Ravens or the Texans.
Yeah, they do have to win because I think they would much
if the
rather
Steelers
play
lose
the
if the Steelers lose and the Chargers win, the Chargers play the Texans and the Steelers play the Ravens. If I'm the Steelers, I want to play the Texans.
But they might want to play the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin's obviously had Harbaugh's number over the last several years, so it's just I don't know. The whole thing's weird, but I would have thought that maybe the Ravens would have played the 8:00 game, but I understand for rating purposes. I mean, the Bengals and Steelers is going to be a way better match.
I think it's
way more fun game to watch. I would think.
Definitely, you'd think a more entertaining game, especially if it's going to be DTR, Dorian, Thompson, Robinson starting. Which
Ravens are favored by 18.5.
Oh,
why? There should never be a spread in the NFL that is that line because
the Ravens have had 2 of them in the last
4
weeks.
But what's stupid is like this. I don't know. Maybe I just feel like this is a classic Vegas thing where they think everyone's going to be like, oh, the Ravens are going to kill them. And then my hope is the Ravens are up by 24 or something in the third, 30, and they can just not have Lamar and them play. So if they don't cover 18.5, it's not that Lamar and them couldn't beat them by that much. I just don't think they're going to play that long.
You know what I want?
Hopefully.
You know what I want?
I want to see Josh Johnson in the third quarter.
Well, that's fine too. I just want to win. A Ravens win. I don't care how they do it.
Blow them out.
I'd be stressed.
The B word.
But a 1-point win, and you then are locked in as the 3 seed, and now you'll have a home playoff game. That is the ultimate goal. However it gets done. If it doesn't get done, I don't know what the city will do, Kev. But maybe we can ask our guests about what he thinks what's going to happen and a few things. I think he's back there. He's hanging out, right?
Yeah.
He's here. Well, I guess, guys, time to bring on our friend of the show, friend of the program. And also, if you're looking to get in the best shape, Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
Check out missiletraining.com. Former Super Bowl champion and Baltimore Raven, Qadry Ismail. Q!
Hey,
happy holidays.
I love how it's like, Kevin, you need to get in shape.
Yeah. Look, everybody knows what's coming. I'm going to run this conditioning test one way or the other, and I need to get in the best shape of my life for it.
There's a lot of things.
I'm going to tell you what we'll do is we'll start off a good, strong, just foundational way of getting you going, not really try to kill you and make you feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to live again and lift up my arms. We're going to hook you up. But I promise you, come the day of the actual, like, hey, you need to do this performance, what we'll do is have you shave 5 pounds of your hair off and you'll be able to ace it, no problem.
Hey,
it does get heavier.
The aerodynamics is going to save you.
That's true.
What you said.
Aerodynamics, all about the aerodynamics.
Yeah, and you know what? We might have to just put Kev through like a dynamic warm-up, just like doing some.
I'm picturing Kevin with a shaved head right now, and it's fantastic.
Can you
imagine? I could definitely give him the shaved head look. I'm a master of that.
Yeah. Q's a legend at that.
I'm also wondering then if if we're really trying to work on like the aerodynamics of things, Kevin's going to be wearing like a skin tight Under Armour type outfit or whatever it's going to be. So it's really aerodynamic to get the best time.
We're gonna zoom. Yeah, we're gonna zoom through this thing.
Yeah. We're going to get him a spandex suit.
God.
Well, that's going to be terrifying. Hey, Q, let's talk a little ball, shall we? Ravens are favorites, obviously, and they should be favorites. From a player's perspective, you've been through so many different circumstances. They should win this game, but how do you approach this as you're in the final week? A team's really ready for the season to be over, but you still got a job to do to lock down the AFC North on Saturday.
I think it's really cool that this is a ball club, the Ravens, that have something to play for. I think anytime they have something to play for whatever the reason, they step up and they play extremely well. It's when they feel like, hey, we can rest and we can chill. That's where you run into issues. So for me, hallelujah, that the North is still on the line. You get a home playoff game. I'm sure the higher ups that are non-football related, but more marketing / money, they're like, oh, please, John, don't rest anybody. Let's just go out there and play and win so we can have a home playoff game. But it speaks to the mindset of this ball club that started off 0-2, that they have an ultimate belief in themselves, that they are going to go through a gauntlet of teams that just so happen to be in the playoffs, every single one of them, and played well against every single one of them. And now you're going to end your season with an opportunity to win your division. That is so rare to start off the way they start off, but then to be in this position where now, hey, you're going to have a opportunity to have a T-shirt and hat game followed by a home playoff game.
Yeah, and actually, we want to save this question for a little bit later, but it makes sense now. Kev, we talked about it before on playing a divisional opponent, and it's so hard playing your division. You want to touch on that a little bit more because that's kind of what's happening this Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think division games, Q, I mean, you know this very well. There are always some things that they're just different. I mean, you know them, they know you. Is that kind of part of what goes into why these games can sometimes be so difficult, or why sometimes you might think, oh, the Ravens are going to blow out this team, but it doesn't really matter because, especially with Ravens Steelers, for example, Ravens could be 15-0, Steelers could be 0-15, then all of a sudden it's like a 10-9 game that the Ravens just squeak out. So can you kind of touch on like the differences of what a divisional game is like, preparing for it and going about it, as opposed to a team that maybe you see once a year or once every 3 years?
Yeah, so it's the nuances of the game. It's the familiarity of one another. And nuances is what really gets you an advantage over your opponent. I think if you look at what the Ravens like to do when it comes to, say, for example, featuring Lamar Jackson in the backfield, and he's doing a read option look, obviously the end man of the line of scrimmage is vitally important as far as the key for Lamar to read. But if you got Derrick Henry in the backfield, now it's even more imperative to make sure all the guys up front have their assignments down pat, because if Lamar gives it to him and he gets up into that second level because the one or two defenders are so keyed on Lamar Jackson, then basically you're screwed. You're screwed as a defense because the Ravens offense is just going to churn along, get down the red zone, of course, score their touchdowns. And now you're working 7-0 down before the game even, really gets juicy. If you know one another, it's where the defender or the defensive coordinator can say to the defender, hey, we know these plays. Let's go ahead and change it up and give them a look they haven't seen. Or as opposed to playing a 5 technique, we're going to play a 9 technique, meaning they're going to widen out the end guy and they're just going to crash him down hard. But that chess match now becomes, okay, well, what's in the Ravens' bag that they've practiced all week that can say, what is our counterpunch to their counterpunch? And so that's where you get this back and forth, and you wind up having these low, tight scoring games. But if it's a team like the Steelers in the second game of the year, they didn't have a full grasp of what the counterpunch was, and they stuck with what they knew, then that's where a Ravens ball club, yeah, you can get it going and get rolling, and now you're living large. So ultimately, I would rather not see the Steelers in the playoffs, and ultimately, I would rather see, say, the Chargers. But at the same time, yeah, bring it on whomever. It doesn't matter. We'll play you, and I'm sure the Ravens will get it done.
I mean, that's the reality of it. You got to play whoever's there. You're going to have to go through somebody. And for the Ravens, at least in the postseason, if they do have to play Pittsburgh, they're going to have to still beat a team like the Chiefs. More than likely, you'll have to go through maybe Buffalo. You're going to have to, exercise some demons, so to speak, for Baltimore. Unless they get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to continue to fight this narrative. Division games are obviously tricky, Q, and I appreciate you talking on that because no team knows you better than the one that's going to face you guaranteed twice a year, and especially one like the Ravens and Steelers where until this past game, the last 7 games were decided by 7 or fewer, 1-score game, whatever it was. So even though Ravens fans feel comfortable with the roster, Your division just can make it very stressful. I mean, ask the Bills a couple weeks ago against the Patriots. That became a game that became a little bit too close for comfort early on, but the Bills were just a far superior team, and the Patriots right now are the worst team record-wise in having the number 1 overall pick.
That's why I think, for me personally, my own opinion, I think that this playoff, at least for the AFC playoffs, it's going to be very interesting. Every playoff team, I think, that should make it into the playoffs have played each other at least once this year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very unpredictable, I think, playoff run for whoever gets to the Super Bowl.
And for Baltimore, that would be the case. They would have played every single team, regardless.
The Bills.
The only one they wouldn't be was the Dolphins, and the Dolphins can get in. If the Broncos lose and the Dolphins win.
The Dolphins need to stop saying before the game that if they lose, they're going to cut Calais Campbell, because I just get every time.
That's their good luck charm. Every time they say it, they win. Every time they say it, they win.
Hey, Q, that's a good point bringing it up. It's like, first off, what's your take on that? That one, it's a superstitious thing. They say it, they win. But are you cool with the fact of, hey, if we're out, we want to give Calais a chance? You know, how does that sit with, like, it's a real rare situation, but I guess the Dolphins aren't going to cut him now because
they keep winning.
They're still in it. But what's your take on that situation?
Yeah, well, I think the one thing, number one, I know EDC tried to get him, and the reports were that the Dolphins, hey, we're still in the thick of this too, so whatever. Obviously, OBJ, hey, you know, we're going to let him go because, you know, he has a chance to, you know, get into contention with another team. And there, you know, 2 other teams, the Rams and the Ravens, that he's played with, so potential there. My take is that, man, don't be trying to push me out the door. Like, first of all, if it is something where you're going to go through back channels, let my agent be the one to go through the back channels and kind of connect all the dots and whatever. But don't be sitting there like pushing me out the door and making me feel kind of awkward with my teammates, like something is going on, and or they really don't want it, and or trying to make me look like I'm not a team leader. I think that can be something that can really turn in the face of the Dolphins.
It was just a weird situation. And, like, I get it. They're saying if it's Calais' final year, give him a chance to go and win somewhere else. But it is odd that now it's been talked about since the trade deadline, essentially, because the Ravens tried to get him. They didn't. And the Dolphins saying he means too much to us. Oh, but if we're out, you know what? We're going to give him a chance. And if I was another team that, you know, I know they have to go through, is it waivers for that process? But then somebody's going to get a good player. Like, you're letting a guy go to give one individual player a chance, but that player can be a game wrecker, and Calais is still playing well at his age. I don't know, Q. We'll see. It looks like the Dolphins, who knows? Maybe the Chiefs have some voodoo the other way.
Yeah. And
they beat the Broncos with Carson Wentz, who's probably going to start. I digress. We'll kind of see how that all plays out here. But Q, one thing you talked about with leadership and chemistry, whatever it may be, I'll tell you what, it looks like the chemistry and leadership in Baltimore has really shown the last few weeks. And talk about players stepping up that you wouldn't expect. And that defense, the defense specifically, looks like it's on a different level. And there's one player specifically, and if you don't mind, he's had 3 huge plays in back-to-back weeks. I think you know who I'm talking about here, and that's Darius Washington. We're going to pull up the clips, and over top of it, I just want you to explain how much it can mean to a team. Or maybe, actually, Q, do you want to break down these plays first, and then you can explain how much it impacts? All right, let's do that.
Absolutely. I think for Darius, it's a situation where you got to continually show up. And I think part of what showing up means is that being available when your number is called upon. I know he was struggling a little bit as far as interceptions and all that and dropping them and all that. But I think once he settled down, this is the 3 games in 11 days, and, you know, he gets the pick with the Giants. But this is a 2nd and 6 play where, you know, I was in the end zone where I am in the media booth. Russell Wilson had a touchdown if he would have just kept on going straight. He decides to cut it back. But now this is where Darius Washington is earning his money with a hellacious, just wicked hit on Russell Wilson. And that ball, I mean, when it popped out, I was like laughing because it was so what they needed. It's a situation in a game where Russ has an easy touchdown. Instead, he cuts back. Who knows why? Who cares? All we know is that 3 games in 11 days, you need your star players to step up. Well, number 29 just jumped up into that star player category, as we see right here. So it was a really big turning point. It just shut down any level of momentum that the Steelers had. And that's where, again, you're looking for guys to make significant plays. This is so key because in the Texans game, I didn't think C.J. Stroud had it all together there. Well, you don't want to give him hope. And so, yeah, again, momentum changing, drive changing, game turning scenarios happen when you're around the football and you're just hitting hard on the ball. 4th and goal. Here we go. You have out leverage a guy where at the top of the screen, you got your trips formation. They're just trying to get it to a little swing flat combination. You swing the ball out. You got a guy lead blocking. You could see the rallying of the troops. I love it. I love the fact that 44 is right there to redirect him. But watch the shedding of the block, and then you just watch how Ardarius Washington, boom, with the sudden hit, and Tre'Davious White comes in and makes sure that there's no second chance. You're seeing 3 guys, and number 29 is one of those 3 guys where they see it, they're reading their key, and they're trusting it. I mean, if that's not blowing a dude up at the point of attack, I don't know what is. And I think for Mixon, homeboy needs to recognize next time I talk some smack, I better not be talking smack to the other teams, special teams players, because they took that thing personal. I think what are
I was just going to ask you, Q, you've been around a lot of footballs. Have you ever seen a coach go flying over top of a player like that?
Yeah, I guess you're as young and spry as Zach Orr. I guess you can go ahead and jump up and get them hops like that and somehow forget to keep your balance. But again, 3 games, 11 days. It's one of those situations where it is so incredibly tough to really game plan, recover, all those things, because you're creatures of habit. Someone needs to step up. And in those games, we had guys step up, but no more important than number 29, Ardarius Washington.
And I think in those moments, Q, it's you talk about momentum plays. Kevin, what was the phrase you like to say about momentum?
If you give the Ravens a momentum play, you're going to have a bad rest of your day.
And for the Ravens, they needed those types of plays. Every team needs them. But for a defense that was not turning the football over a ton like they were last year, they had so many growing pains. And then all of a sudden, one player that you did not expect has now made game-changing, game-altering plays in week after week, week in, week out. That speaks volume. And by the way, shout out to our friend of the show, the program, Nick, British Raven. He put that compilation together. So, Nick, appreciate you. And it's incredible to show. But, Q, how much does that mean in the locker room right now?
Oh God, bro, I promise you, huge. Like walk on water, huge. We knew, for example, like Kyle Hamilton, when he was kind of, going up and all of a sudden he started making play, like blocks of plays. That's when you're like, whoa, wow, oh my gosh. And then I was like, hey man, that dude, he's about to be all pro. And Kevin and I on different podcasts that we be on, we just started saying it. Hey, Kyle Hamilton, Mr. All Pro. Kyle Hamilton, yep, the long arm of the law. Well, same thing with Mighty Mouse. Ardarius Washington, Mighty Mouse Part 2. Homeboy literally is small in stature but brings the funk. And 3 games in 11 days to make impact-type plays. Yeah, that's why Zach Orr went ahead and jumped up with all the excitement, trying to give him a little chest bump, but he wound up falling.
Hey, you
I'm
know
telling
what?
you,
Though?
like, that galvanizes a defense real quick.
And you see it. You love the fire for it. And you know what? And I love the fact that Zach Orr now, people are giving him his flowers. And yes, it has been a bumpy ride in year one. I think that people always expect Q, hey, things are going to be sound from the get-go. But people do forget the year prior or 2 years ago when Mike McDonald took over, and everyone remembers that Dolphins game.
Yeah.
I
Right?
try not to.
I mean, we'll block that from the memory there. But there's moments where even great coaches and even teams, you have to go through it. I think that we just expected because the defense was so dominant. But over time, you can put it together. And the Ravens are putting it together, and they believe in what's happening here, Q. But before I let you go, then, we talked about the chemistry, and how it galvanizes the team and all these plays. On the flip side, because we're going to talk about this next, but I don't know if you saw that Colts game and Giants game yesterday. That to me has to be one of the most embarrassing losses of the year. But on the other side, you talk about how it can galvanize a team when things go well. How quickly can it go the other way? Because what you saw with the Colts, I mean, you've probably been in locker rooms, Q. Can you just that have had both sides? Is that fair to say? You've seen both of those angles?
Well, yeah, I've been on 2 losing teams in my entire football career, and both had a common theme. You've had poor coaching, poor senior leadership. And in the case of the Saints, we had the worst coaching staff to ever be assembled, and they just couldn't coach their way out of a paper bag. And we would make just such dumb decisions, and you're like, why? With that said, I think, you got to realize you're in pro football. And unfortunately, you turn on that tape and you see guys where you're like, man, we got this. Oh, bro, this is an easy game for us. And then what winds up happening? There's 2 things. One, you go ahead and you don't do your same preparation because you're like, I'm about to have a stat game. Stat game is where you just like, I'm going to pad my stats. My agent's going to be like, yo, I think you need to go ahead and extend my guy with some extra funds. But then number 2, you go out there not prepared, and then all of a sudden you realize the other team, they're playing desperation. They hit you in the mouth, and you're trying to like battle, but you don't have it. And you realize, dang it, I just lost the mental game because I didn't prepare, and now I'm losing a physical game because I'm definitely not physically ready, and they're whooping my butt. They want it more than me. That is a death sentence, and that's what happened with the Colts.
Man. Well, luckily, that's not happening with the Ravens. They seem to be peaking at the right time. Hopefully, they can end the regular season, getting the 12th victory, winning the AFC North, and riding this momentum where there's a belief that they can beat anybody and any team, not only in the AFC, but hopefully get into the Super Bowl. So, Q, we'll have you on again to talk more about it. I know you got to run around and continue to train. So let people know, one, where they can find you for all the things you do. And then secondly, about Missile Training one more time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So missiletraining.com is where everybody can interact with me. And if you have any questions as far as training, movement, doesn't matter if you're an athlete or if you're just a normal, average, regular person trying to just get better movements and get rid of the aches and pains.
Oh, yeah.
If you're trying to be like my guy, Kevin Ostreicher, who is trying to have a competitive moment for himself, we don't cut your hair, but we will get you in shape. We'll do it the right way so your body can last for a lifetime. We empower you. So whether you're 6 years old all the way up to 85, if you're a team and you want to do some team training, absolutely can fit that into the equation as well. But also you can find me, and this is interesting because the Ravens flexed the schedule and the schedule makers, for whatever the reason, 4:30 Saturday is the game. Well, WJZ is where you can find me for Purple Pregame. We actually moved our normally regularly scheduled program from Sunday over to Saturday. So Ravens fans, you'll check us out on WJZ Channel 13. And, of course, get you ready for kickoff. And then, of course, look after the game for our post-game on WJZ as well. But you can find me on missiletraining.com.
Q's a man of many talents and he wears many hats, but I do mean this from now a player being out of the game. My biggest thing is you want to be functional, enjoy life, and I do want to see Kevin race. So I think that's great. And also you want to get all of we're lucky we have you on, Q, but for everyone else, go check him out before the game. You want the insights? We know, Q, you don't hold anything back, and that's what makes you you. So we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. I think we'll see you Thursday.
Absolutely. Yes, you shall. Appreciate you, fellas.
Appreciate you, Q.
Appreciate you, Q.
I love Q, man. And I'm serious about the whole with training, by the way.
Yeah.
And I've actually, my old trainer that I've talked to about this, the biggest thing when people as you get older, and I'm like, well, man, I'm not playing every day anymore. I'm not training to be an athlete. I want to be functional. Yeah. And I look at Q, and I know obviously, Q only has the most receiving yards in a Ravens-Steelers matchup ever in a single game. But I mean, if I can look like Q and be functionally in shape, like that's my goal. Kevin, I know I want to see you run the 40 or the conditioning test.
The conditioning test. I want to do it so badly. So badly.
In the full spandex suit.
And and Q's 54.
Yeah.
He looks like that. I mean, it's just
unreal.
Obviously, he's an athlete, NFL pro athlete, so he's a freak of nature to begin with. But like at 54, that's crazy.
I'm just saying, hey, you want to take care of yourself as you get older. You're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your family, your others. You want to be able to do what you want for as long as you want. I mean, hey, Joe, I saw you mention Harbaugh and Hard Knocks. That dude still.
Oh, my God.
That
was crazy.
People don't understand the shape that Harbaugh's in. Like, it is so funny.
He doesn't look like it either. Like when you see him like on game day or whatever, he doesn't look like he's ripped.
No,
but that was like the first time I was like, God damn.
Yeah. Well, the big thing, obviously, you had the scene of him just tossing around the 70-pound dumbbells just like they were nothing. But the weighted chin-ups when he's got like 65 pounds, I was like, that was the one. Like, you can teach and build strength over the years, but for him to still be able to do those weighted pull-ups and stuff,
that was wild.
Maybe it's not Nick I have to do the Oklahoma drill. Maybe it's Harbaugh I need to do the Oklahoma drill with.
Yeah, right.
Now that
that would be
Kevin
something.
60-year-old Harbaugh's gonna whoop your ass.
Yeah, who do you think wins though between that Nick or Harbaugh? I might take John.
No, remember when Vrabel and Harbaugh were at it, and everybody was like, "Oh, Vrabel's gonna kick his ass." Yeah. After seeing that, I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe not.
John would hold his own.
It'd be so funny if Harbaugh after that moment was like, "I'm gonna get in the gym and just become the Mr. Like I'm gonna show Mike Vrabel one day," and he might be back in the league next year.
Vrabel might be back.
I don't think so.
You don't think he's coming back? Vrabel's not coming back?
I think he's going to coach a college team.
I don't think he's going to do college. I think he's going to get a defensive coordinator position.
Oh, if he gets a head coaching job at a college, at a D1 school over being a coordinator, I think he takes the head coaching job.
Only place I think he goes in college is Ohio State.
Which might happen.
Yeah. If once they figure out Ryan Day was born on third.
All right.
You got to remember that Jim Harbaugh said that, and it is completely ruined. After they beat Ohio State the first time, Harbaugh made a reference of Ryan Day being born on third, pretty much saying like, "This is Urban Meyer's team. All you did was like take it, and you can't do anything about it." And ever since that, they haven't beaten Michigan. So no matter
was that moment.
Yeah, it was. So that was everyone, and it's like, and he like Harbaugh talked. It was a classic Harbaugh. Like even he's like. Just saying the slight things like, yeah, we know they can't, match up with us physically and we can just run it past them every time. Like that's just their mentality.
Yeah.
So that's why every single year, even this year, if Ohio State decided we were just going to throw the ball 50 times against Michigan, they would have won by 100. But they are so focused on this narrative that they have to beat Michigan in this like run style game.
Yeah.
That Michigan has them in their head. But yeah, Ryan Day born on third is one of the greatest.
That's hilarious.
Lines. Yeah. Unreal.
Shirts and pants, man. And you know what? Speaking of shirts and pants, we appreciate all of our members, specifically our Holy Shirts and Pants community here.
We have one.
And yes, Marshall.
Tony Gibson.
We are
working the transfer portal.
Yes, you are.
I feel like Zach should be the new offensive coordinator.
He could at least be the recruiter. You know how Portnoy's kind of like that guy for Michigan.
When we make it big and they just start wondering why all these random 5-star quarterbacks are going to Marshall for absurd money.
Zach and I talk about this on Kevin and Zach React, where we say that if we had like position. Like if we were like coaches on the Orioles, we would just open it up to the chat. Like we just live stream the games in the dugout and be like, bring in the left fielder, top donation.
That would be the worst professional team.
What if a team actually did that for like a game or like for a week? It was like, hey, we're just going to take.
No, it would be absolutely terrible.
Oh, I know.
What league
I know.
decided to do that? There was some arena football league where you could vote on plays. Like it would be like ahead of time. Like it would be like a 10-second to 15-second. Like you could be on their website. It'd be like run. It was literally like a Madden screen. Like it'd be like the 3 play options, and then people would vote and they would run that play.
Christ.
That's incredible.
We need that.
If I'm the other team, I'm sitting there on the website looking which one got more votes. So like they're running it.
If I'm voting if I'm the other team. I'm saying we want you to run this at us.
Right?
Spike the ball on 4. Spike the ball.
What could go wrong? Absolutely
nothing.
Absolutely nothing. But hey, we appreciate you guys all here at the Ryan Ripken Show. If you're new to the channel, though, hit that like and subscribe button. We're live every Monday and Thursday, and for pregame for when the Ravens play. So that will be this Saturday. Probably do it in the late morning, maybe early afternoon. So join us then. And also, it's a good time before we dive into more of our football conversation to take a ride on our Jeep. That is our Adams Jeep of Maryland here. And look, we got a full house in here riding and making it nice and relaxed. It's almost the new year. Don't need to speed around. Be careful. Kevin, we're not swerving.
No need to be Rocco on the roads.
We do not be Rocco on the roads, but Adams Jeep of Maryland has been our OG sponsor from the beginning. And Zach, over or under that this video gets up in 5 seconds.
Over. No
Under. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Whammy.
It was always the over.
Hit the over. But our friends Adams Jeep of Maryland, hey, look, they're 5 minutes from the Aberdeen Ironbird Stadium there, or Ripken Stadium is what sometimes it's called. But look, you need a new car. You're looking for a new vehicle, used or brand new. Check them out. And on the website, adamsjeepofmaryland.com, you go there, you can set the price that you are looking for. It's almost like you're looking for a home, right? You go on there, you set your price and what you want to do, or you just go on Zillow. Jamie does that for hours, even though we're like, oh, we're not even looking. She'll look for a place in Rhode Island, but it's fun. Go and pick your price. And if you go up there and say, hey, we love the Ryan Ripken Show and Rocco sucks, he's a danger to society, they'll give you $1,000 in gas with a purchase of a used or new car at Adams Jeep. And obviously they have all the service available. That's not just for Jeep members, for anybody that is looking to get their car serviced or detailed. We appreciate our friends Adams Jeep of Maryland. Fellas, I'm a little fired up about this Colts situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think I'm fired up about it, Pat McAfee held nothing back about what he thought about the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. Did you guys see his tweet that he put out yesterday? The paragraph, the blog. Kev, did you see that?
Oh, yeah, it was a long one.
Shirts and pants, man. And at this moment that we're recording this, it has 12.7 million views on X.
Oh, I'm pulling it up.
You're pulling up the tweet?
Yeah.
And it is a marathon of a tweet. But really, I can't believe what happened yesterday in some cases. And I know a lot of people, I asked this question on social media, was that the worst loss of the year? You're playing for your playoff lives. But people were saying, well, the Ravens lost to the Raiders. Yeah, in week 2. And you lost at home. Great. The Giants hadn't scored more than 30 points all season. The Giants had the number 1 overall pick going into the game. The Giants hadn't won a game at home all season. And Drew Lock, who has been now with 3 teams, Denver, Seattle, Giants. Yeah. He got benched then after he was starting Tommy DeVito. Then it was Drew and Tommy. And then Drew Lock goes out and proves that he might be the franchise quarterback who needs the top overall pick. 5 touchdowns for Drew Lock in a game that they had to have. But Pat McAfee, if you guys are listening on the audio side, which is on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcasts, Pat McAfee said, I've said what I believe to be the truth about the team, and a bunch of Colts fans on the internet were trying to get me booed out of the city. Current players who have won nothing during their entire tenures started using me in my face to try and paint me as the enemy in the city I've committed my life to. And in the end, everything went just like I fucking said it would. In the biggest moments, everybody with a brain knew they'd crack, and they did. We could go on and on about this, but you're seeing here all of the things that he's talking about. And actually, Brad, I think I put in the video. McAfee reacted to it today, this whole response. And before we play the video, the last comment of this all the way at the bottom is, I've never seen a group waste opportunities / talent / money more than this group. So obviously Pat talked about it today on his show. Let's play that for you guys real quickly.
Into it. Salute the Service Award, which is obviously a massive ordeal, especially here in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is an award given to somebody on each team for their service back to the military and how they. I was very lucky to win that award multiple times. I became a finalist in the NFL, felt honored to do it. Here in Indiana, the amount of military personnel there is.
A lot.
The amount of military everywhere. Camp Atterbury is about an hour south of here. They're sending people to war down there. I mean, this is a very, very, very big military hub. You heard about the shelter downtown before the winter. The Colts gave that to Blue, the Salute to Service Award winner. It's like the Colts gave the award to themselves for what they do for the military in Indianapolis. It's like, so nobody on the team.
Who's Blue?
Blue's the mascot.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the Colts. Like, that is the Colts.
They tell him where to go.
So it's like you just start adding up all these things. It's like, who are you guys? Like, why do you think you are who you are? And it's because they all got paid. They've all been here. And there's never been anybody that's like, hey, you can't just stink and get away with it. Well, you can, because they have, and they are continuing to do so.
Man, and as a former coach, I saw obviously a lot of people saw your tweet. You saw
so many. I did not expect that. I put that down, by the way. Came back, saw it at 6.8. Whoa. All right.
Put it
People
down
thought
again.
I was like mad when I was writing it. I wasn't mad. I was just like, this is just a matter of fact.
Yeah,
like,
true.
These are just all the things how I feel about the situation.
Yeah, and like you said, you can't. I don't think you can just flip the switch. You know, it's a culture issue at that point, because you're coming in, like you said, lurking, and you looked at the schedule a couple weeks ago. Okay, we got these two teams. We handle our business. Obviously, some other things got to happen. But then to see that effort, you know, talent is one thing, and I feel like we have the talent on the team. So when you go into and playing the New York Giants and you lay an egg like that, they put up 45 on you, and then just watching the tape, watching the game and seeing the effort, extremely, extremely disappointing. You see what's going on in Minnesota with what Questy and KOC have done. You see what's going on in Detroit with Brad Holmes and MCDC have done, and other places as well. The Rams came into this season, bunch of young pieces on defense. Obviously, Stafford didn't know what was going on there, and they're won the damn NFC West. So like when it comes down to the leadership, and that's from the top down, not only the players, and then the players, you got to police each other. You got to create that culture and enforce that culture in the locker room. And like you said, we know a lot of people in that building. Shout out Dave Hammer, who it's probably his last season there, but he's been there since
Head
84.
athletic trainer, yeah.
He's been there since 84, so he's seen a bunch of different teams. A lot of those guys, the training room, equipment room, former players. You know, I know it's a lot of new fans who maybe have been fans of the Colts for, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and think they know it all. But when you talk about the people who have laid the foundation of the organization and what they put out there on tape and on the field, as professionals, you obviously got to look at yourself and check yourself, and then you got to be able to check each other. And the only way you can check somebody else is if you're accountable yourself and you're holding it down. So very, very disappointed as a former Colt. And I agree with damn near everything you said in that tweet.
A lot of bum tendencies.
Yeah.
Just like too many bum tendencies. And then just stop being bums. Just be like, it's hard for me to understand and wrap my mind around it. Especially, like Anthony Richardson didn't play yesterday, and I hope his back is healthy. Legitimately, I hope his back is healthy. Back spasms would suck. The fact that it wasn't rolled out as back spasms to begin with, I think is...
That's in my opinion, once again, and I know a lot of people over there, I got a lot of respect, but that's an organizational thing, because you can't, you put him in a bad spot, because we don't know. As fans, we don't know what's going on inside the building. But when you say back and foot soreness for a week when everything's on the line, and there's already been question marks around your quarterback with the tapping out and missing games like that, and you say back and foot soreness, and then after the game you say, oh, it was spasm and they were serious, and that's what are we doing?
So right there, sorry, you can my bad on that. So point being, so McAfee used bum behavior.
Yeah.
Obviously he's been friends with the organization for years. He has said many a times he has no connection with the current staff and players, and a lot of them don't like him because of what he said. And that goes back to all of this. But fellas, let's look at this from a context.
Yeah.
And imagine this is your team you're rooting for. Imagine this is Baltimore and season on the line. And again, I agree with him. I hope Anthony Richardson's okay. But a lot of vague messaging before then. People were questioning then Anthony Richardson, saying, is he not willing to play through it? Then the next thing is you go and play a team that has the worst record in the NFL. You have to win to stay alive. And quite frankly, they had the easiest path of the teams that needed the most help, right? The Colts, if they win out, they just need the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs, and they were the team that was going to be in. A couple weeks before, they should have beat the Broncos. Jonathan Taylor's fumble at the goal line. Dropping the ball, talk about momentum plays. Changed the entire game. But I think that they're right. You know, I'm not going to sit here and criticize the players inside the locker room, but they are right is the Colts for the second straight year had the chance. Last year, they battled with Gardner Minshew, but at home, lost to the Texans, chance to win and go to the playoffs, eliminated themselves multiple times this year where they lost games. And they have been a team that you heard, I don't know if he said in the fact, it's been 10 years since the Colts have won a division title.
Yeah. I'll say this. You might not criticize the players, but one of the guys within the locker room did, and he called them out. It said, DeForest Buckner said today, I'm going to be honest, we shit the bed another year. It's frustrating this offseason. There's going to be some changes, and sometimes those changes are going to be uncomfortable for people. There will be uncomfortable conversations, and I think obviously that's probably amongst themselves. I mean, you've been a part of some pretty terrible teams, right? And so, like, is there some truth to that where, like, you got a guy like DeForest coming out and maybe some former players saying, hey, like it's about accountability and you got to take accountability for yourself and then keep others accountable too. Can you speak to that? Like, you know, as far as what that looks like in a locker room?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we even go back first off to another Colts player. Kenny Moore was saying things earlier this year. If we remember, we played a clip on here of saying, and there are all the reports coming out there. Yeah, you know on any team that you play on as you continue to move up, and this doesn't have to even be at the highest level. I mean, any level of sport that you've played that you care about and you're competitive about, you can tell who's fully bought in for those. I'm not going to say everyone has reasons, but if you're on a team like that, your goal is to win. So the right reasons. I'm going to say that, the right reasons. And you can tell when someone else's focus is elsewhere or they aren't taking it as seriously enough. And when you get into the professional world, this is what you got to battle. You got to battle. One, yes, you're trying to make a career and your livelihood, right? That is the reality. It's a business. You don't play well, they're going to cut you. But the job is to win. Make yourself valuable, so your focus needs to be on winning. If you're not focused enough on the day-to-day, and then you get paid, and that's when we've seen with players take the foot off the gas if they have been paid, it's got to show. And for the Colts right here, Buckner's exactly right. You need to have guys that are willing to change a culture, because if not, the same thing's going to happen over and over again. And that's what Pat's alluding to. That's what DeForest is alluding to. And I'm glad he called him out. I'm glad that they said that, because to me, not only was it the most embarrassing loss for in the NFL, but for the Colts, not only was it a bad loss, you lost by double digits.
To the worst team in football.
To the worst team in football. A quarterback that's been a cast-off, Kevin. Drew Lock.
Yeah.
How many screens? The Malik Neighbors' first touchdown, 31 yards. They had a punt return. Turnover on the first possession. 45 points. And I know fantasy football-wise, take that aside. That was brutal. Go ahead.
It was one of those games where you genuinely watched, and I hate to say this, but it literally felt like what I would watch if an NFL team offense was playing against a college defense, because it wasn't anything creative. Right. It wasn't like, oh, these are just, if Malik Neighbors beats you, he's an out of this world talent. I think he's going to be a star in this league. He beats you once or twice. He beats you once or twice. But it was just screen passes. It was 3rd and 8s. It was dump offs.
And Drew Lock rushing for a touchdown.
Yes, Drew Lock rushing for a touchdown.
After almost falling down before that, too.
Yes, right. It was just time after time. Every play, you were like, okay, the Giants weren't going out there trying to win. They were throwing slants that then the Colts were missing 7 tackles on.
Right.
We had Giants players, like you said, even besides the Drew Lock one on the one screen, the Giant players started tripping at like the 15-yard line and had enough time to catch himself, catch balance, and then still beat everyone to the end zone. It just was a hard game to watch. And I couldn't imagine being a Colts fan sitting here, because there needs to be something. And it starts with, they got to clear house, GM, coach, everything. I know it's Steichen's second year, all that. it feels like an organizational thing.
Well, the Jim Irsay's got to look himself in the mirror too. I mean, I know, but and it's the same thing with like Jerry Jones, right? Like where everybody's critical of him and he can't get out of his own way. And I feel like Jim Irsay is the same way. It's just like you're the one that sets the culture in that organization. Jerry Jones is the one that does the same. And I feel like those two owners are very similar in that way. Jim Irsay obviously isn't as front facing, doesn't want to be on camera all the time, but he's also just as full of himself and just thinks that he has all the answers. And he very clearly does not.
Yeah.
And he just needs to put people in the right place to actually be able to make those decisions.
You know, your football team is in a horrible spot when I see Colts fans just tweeting out, I hope they move on from Anthony Richardson solely for Anthony Richardson's sake. Well, like they were like, stop ruining his. He's this guy, like get him out of the Colts because he's an all-world talent, and we're just going to. And he's the
worst quarterback to be in an organization that's dysfunctional because he was so raw coming in
exactly
that he needed the support from a legitimate organization to elevate his game. Almost kind of like a Lamar Jackson. I feel like if Lamar Jackson was in an organization like the Colts, he wouldn't have made it.
Stability matters. Stability matters in an organization. You can look around the NFL right now. Who is having an 100%. Unbelievable season for the Minnesota Vikings?
The Vikings, right. Yeah.
The Jets almost ruined Sam Darnold. And I'm not saying Sam Darnold is a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback, but it went from the Jets was a bad, dysfunctional situation where he showed flashes of moments, but then they were done with him. Baker, they were all about him being the savior, and all of a sudden it was Baker's fault.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with those two organizations right now? The Jets haven't been to the postseason in 14 years since Rex Ryan was there. And the Browns, we know their track record. Their only playoff win in recent memory was Baker Mayfield leading the team at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
There's so many different parts that are going on there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then all of a sudden 2018 becomes one of the greatest draft years for quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of crazy.
If you're the Colts, you lose to a guy that is more known for what he did on the sideline of an NFL game and rapping Jeezy than what he's actually done on the field. And I agree with you, Brad, where it's like the Colts couldn't pick a side this season with Anthony Richardson, where it was like, all right, he's not really performing well. There was the whole thing with him getting tired and subbing himself out of the game and this, that, and the other. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to bench him for Joe Flacco. And this is a long-term thing. Like this is not, they made it clear. This is going to be a long-term thing.
Long-term turned into 3 weeks.
Yeah. And the other part too, with Anthony Richardson, and this is where, again, the dysfunction of a team protecting you. Yeah. When you say back soreness and whatnot.
Yeah. The PR team shit the bed on that too.
I know a lot of people are going to say, well, maybe it comes out later. He has a fracture. Something happens when you were trying to be careful. But what it sounds like, given what happened earlier, where he took himself out of the game for being tired, it just sounds like he didn't want to play. And I don't think that's fair to Anthony at the same time.
Read the room.
Yeah. And the point is they did not protect him on that sense. And then also when the reports were coming out, the players were late to meetings or whatever it was, like the work ethic, no one even debunked that with the Colts. It was just, they just like, oh, we know we're focused on winning, which I get it. But the fact that everything's going on and no one's really debunking that, and then the play on the field, that's the ultimate indicator. If they win and they were in the playoffs and they won the division, it's all hearsay. We're all just talking about it. But the fact that they're not winning, that's what's happening here. And again, I tell people with fan bases, and for Ravens fans, we had a lot of Baltimore fans, be thankful you have an organization that's structured. It makes the world of difference. You want to take some more examples? Go look at the Commanders and the Bears right now. New ownership with the Commanders, new coach, new system. Jane Daniels, exceptional talent. Unbelievable last night, right? By the way, like just incredible. Thriving. Yeah. Chicago, no leadership. Dysfunctional. And yes, Caleb was talked up to be something that he may or may not be, but we're not going to fully know that until something is cleaned house in there, because there is no accountability there. There is no structure in Chicago.
And there's a ton of talent. I mean, there's a ton of talent in the Chicago squad on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
And it just goes to show that
organizational dysfunction
will ruin a team no matter how talented they are.
And the Colts, the reality is the Colts could have won the division back-to-back years. This Texans team was not as good as they could have been.
No, they shouldn't be leading the division. They really shouldn't be. Not the way that they've been
South has been just disappointing. I don't want to call them I'll call them AFC South dynasties, because I feel like you had Trevor Lawrence go there and you're like, oh, okay. the AFC South runs through Jacksonville the next, decade. Like they got the guy. Didn't do it. Then it was like, oh, well, he was taking over for Derrick Henry and them. And then you're like, okay, well, now CJ Stroud, he's going to run this thing for the next decade. And then disappointment again. It feels like that division is just one team takes a big step one year and you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
That's the team to beat in this division. Then everyone else is like, no, we're just actually really mediocre.
Quite literally, half of the AFC is trash.
Yeah.
This season.
It's
the
very...
AFC East and the AFC South, all trash teams except for the Bills.
Wolf. And the last thing to close out that conversation, going into this game yesterday, the Giants had 3 interceptions on the year.
Uh-huh.
And they had 2 yesterday. And going into the game, they had 12 total takeaways, which would have tied them at the bottom, right? The only one that has less turnovers is the Jaguars with 9, but they would have been tied with the Patriots and the Browns. Also, another team that's low on that list, the New York Jets. Talented team, only 13 takeaways. Granted, they had a lot of injuries, but also maybe firing their defensive-minded head coach was not the right decision. But hey, you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. So that covers that. That was the big conversation of yesterday. Colts are eliminated. Broncos now, they win, they're in. But if they lose and the Dolphins win, they're in. And if the Broncos lose and the Dolphins lose and the Bengals win, then the Bengals would be in. And we know that the NFL would love to see the Bengals in the postseason. Why? Joe Burrow, obviously, and that offense that they have is exciting to watch. They played extremely well. T. Higgins is going to earn himself a massive contract. And if it wasn't evident before with his talent, that game against the Broncos was a great stamp to say, hey, he's a game changer. And yes, Jamar Chase also is too. That helps. But fellas, the last question, finally, we can have this conversation because we're in the final week.
Mm-hmm.
We've had it for weeks. We've had it for months. MVP. Here we are. The Bills have locked up the 2 seed. The Ravens will lock up the 3 seed and the AFC North with a victory against the Browns. So who is the MVP? For the one positive I'd like to say about this, I love that we have a close race.
It feels good to finally have a close race this deep into a season. I feel like the past 6 years, it's pretty much it hasn't felt this close since the weird because Carson Wentz went out late in the season of between Wentz and Brady. It hasn't felt that up in the air since then.
And here it is.
Yeah.
And that was because of the injury. This case, Lamar and Josh are all the way till the end. And Kev, because I know you have some thoughts on this, but let's play the first one. And let's start with Tony Romo, because he was recently asked about this and he was talking about the Jets and the Bills just played. Tony Romo weighed in on if he had an MVP MVP choice, who he would lean towards. So let's play that clip for you guys real quickly.
Really close. I mean, honestly, it's a coin flip in a lot of ways. I only give the edge to Josh because of the team record. And right now it's like, that's the difference. If everything's so close, they're both such a huge part, of the team winning. And I feel like Josh has probably had to do a little bit more. And that's saying, that's like by that much, just because Lamar is just so special. But, having Derrick Henry does help the process a little bit.
I will offer that. I will also offer James Cook, who finds the end zone, again, I believe 15 times this season. Yardage, obviously, a factor there and an advantage to Derrick Henry. The closing argument will go to Lamar Jackson likely. Josh Allen locked into the 2 seed, probably won't see him until playoff football. Could that sway things in your mind at all?
It could. If Lamar lights it up and has another like Christmas type game, that could sway it because it's the last thing you see. So weirdly, the MVP might come down to a game in the regular season like that. So we'll see how it plays out next week, but it'll be fun to watch.
So there's that. And Kevin, this leads me to, I'm going to pull this up because I think it is definitely worth pulling up here. Just had it. Where'd it go? There we go. Hold on here. Hold your horses. Some Ravens were chiming in on this, Kevin.
Chiming in is a soft way to put it.
So why don't we put this up? Charlie Kohler chimed in on this. I'm not a math genius, but one guy seems to be leading all categories except for quarterback sneaks. And Kev,
that got 4 million views.
Yeah, well,
yeah, he called him out.
The best one was go down.
Yeah,
his
go
response.
down. Go down.
Did you see?
You want me to go down?
Scroll down.
Oh, hey.
He There's a click on his second one.
This
The
one?
top, no, top one, right
top
above.
one.
Yeah,
there you go.
that's his
This one?
Yes.
Yes, right there.
So that was, he then said, LL did not realize how hateful Bills fans are. Josh is obviously really good. I just think LJ is the MVP.
Yeah.
So in general, but Kev, I think that's continued to be the narrative here of, well, it's a coin flip, and the continued conversation. We'll have Dan Orlovsky's quote next of doing it with less. That continues to be the point here. I think that people are misunderstanding that Lamar Jackson might be having one of the most historic seasons ever, but that's somehow being swept under the rug.
Yeah, and look, both guys are incredible. Both guys are having great seasons. This is not, me or us saying that, oh, Josh is some terrible quarterback and Lamar's. No, both guys are incredible players and incredible talents. But I think the thing is there are so many different narratives that have come out over the last even week, even day that we have seen continue to form. And the one with Tony Romo that we didn't show there was him talking about the fact that Lamar has 2 and Josh has none, and that you're going to side with the guy that has none.
Ridiculous.
And that's just human nature. If I'm Josh Allen, I hate that.
Yeah. You're just getting a pity MVP.
Yeah. Give me the award because I deserve it and because people think I deserve it. Don't give me the award because you feel bad for me that another guy has one. I mean, that's terrible for everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's awful. And so there are a lot of narratives. You mentioned it with like Lamar is getting punished for having Derrick Henry on his team, when in reality, Lamar
elevated Derrick Henry.
He elevates Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry certainly has something to do with Lamar's success too. It's a two-way street, but it's being advertised and pushed out as if, well, Derrick Henry, if Lamar were to miss time, the Ravens would win 8 games with Derrick Henry. And I don't know if people watch Tyler Huntley play quarterback for this team or Josh Johnson play quarterback for this team, but it wouldn't be that way.
The tack onto that with Derrick Henry, the narrative about Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson's going to should have after the Browns game, the greatest quarterback rating of all time. And of the top 5 quarterback ratings that to close out a season, they've all won MVP.
Yeah.
And so if Lamar Jackson doesn't win MVP with the greatest QB rating of all time, passer rating of all time, that would be unprecedented, which I think would be absolutely. So Derrick Henry might be helping Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson's throwing the ball. And Derrick Henry doesn't have the greatest passer rating of all time. Lamar Jackson does.
And all the conversations about, Lamar wouldn't be doing this without Derrick Henry. Did we not see Lamar win 2 MVPs without Derrick Henry on his team?
Yeah. Well, and there's a Mark Ingram that basically was almost at the end of his career. And then all of a sudden he got a resurgence because of a Lamar Jackson. It wasn't because Mark Ingram just all of a sudden got good again.
How many touchdowns did Gus Edwards have last year? 12, 13?
Yeah.
I think, around there.
It's just
give or take.
Yeah, it really does. I love the whole the Ravens ground game is the reason that Lamar Jackson is, playing so well. Have the Ravens not had historic ground seasons literally every year that Lamar is healthy? Does Derrick Henry help? Yeah. Does Lamar Jackson help Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry talks about it all the time. He's like, it's so easy to play football with Lamar Jackson because everybody, I don't care that it's Derrick Henry behind that line of scrimmage. All 11 eyes on the defense are saying, does 8 have the football? And until Derrick Henry officially has it and is at the line of scrimmage with the ball, they are focused on 8. And then it's, okay, Derrick has it. And by the time you realize Derrick has it, he's already 8 yards down the field. And then you just got to make that play. So they work off each other. Does Lamar help Derrick? Does Derrick help Lamar? Yeah. But it's also just how crazy concept great teams work.
I'm just going back to this about great players. You remember when Tom Brady had Randy Moss broke the record?
Yeah.
Yeah. Marshall
he helped break. Yeah, we are Marshall.
Baby.
But having great players around you obviously can help elevate your game. But at the same time, does Randy get all those touchdowns if Tom Brady isn't the one who's the quarterback?
No.
Or do the Patriots go undefeated?
No.
Without Tom Brady. And that's we can play this game over and over again, but actually, Kev, because we're going to continue talking about this.
Yeah.
Because then we'll play. The reason why I think we're having all these conversations over and over again is because of what the narrative has been spun in the media for the last couple months, 3 months, right? And I credited Dan Orlovsky. We're going to play this clip next. Dan is walking back and apologizing for saying the MVP race was over 2 or 3 weeks ago. The narrative on the national spotlight is so skewed in one direction. And people can say, and especially the voters, guys, who votes on the MVP? It's a lot of writers. It's a lot of writers, reporters.
Dan Orlovsky has a vote.
So all that's context. So if people are on here talking about it, and that's what's been talked about, is that Josh Allen should be the MVP after they beat the Chiefs. What week was that? Week 10, 11, 12, whatever it was?
Long time ago.
6 weeks
in
ago?
November.
6 weeks ago. Anyway, let's play part of the clip from Dan Orlovsky talking about that, because he does walk back, but then he gives his indication of why he's still sticking with his MVP.
Okay, so the MVP conversation's completely gone off the rails. One, I was the one 3 weeks ago who said, it's over. I was wrong. I was caught up in the moment, over emotional. People said there's still 3 games left this season. I was like, no. So on me, totally. But the narrative of the conversation around it has completely gone off the rails. The award is to celebrate great player achievement, and we're losing sight of that, okay? I said weeks ago on First Take that MVP and Offensive Player of the Year are different. We have changed the definition of MVP, but it still is MVP. Offensive Player of the Year is great performance. You had a great season. MVP is you have to evaluate how that performance was accomplished, given what was around you, all that, and how much it impacted your team. Okay, that's the bottom line. And the narratives of if you vote for Lamar Jackson, you don't like Josh Allen, or if you vote for Josh Allen, you don't like Lamar Jackson. All these other narratives of vote fatigue, racism. It's not it. Can we stop making it about that? Offensive Player of the Year, you're gonna vote for who you think had the best season. Like you had an unbelievable season. MVP, you have to evaluate all of it. That's part of it. The value that you bring, the contribution that your play brought to your team. And so, yes, your scheme, your offensive line, stats don't tell the whole story. That's why, stats, you could say Offensive Player of the Year stats, great. MVP really should be about what it looks like. It really should be about what it looks like. That's why, last year, I voted for Lamar Jackson, because I just watched it all and I said, well, his performance, given everything that was going on, the contribution that his performance made, given everything that was with him, that was the most valuable performance. That's why I voted for Lamar. So if I vote for Lamar this year, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate Josh Allen. And if I there's multiple guys that could be in this conversation. Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield's had a great year. Goff's had a great year. There's 4 guys that are probably in the conversation: is Saquon Barkley, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Saquon Barkley might break a 40-year-old rushing record. Joe Burrow is having a historic season. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are having historic seasons.
Yeah, sorry, I was about to cut it off there. But point being, so Kev, you're saying about a narrative, and you watched last year with Lamar and the numbers. First off, I do want to point out with players, and I know they're saying the amount of touchdowns accrued last year, and Josh Allen, it was video game-esque numbers, but it was also video game-esque numbers of the turnovers.
Yeah.
Josh Allen had 18 turnovers, and in the MVP voting, he wasn't even in the top 3 last year. Or 4. So I get the whole point of it saying that, but at some point, it has to match up here. Historic season and the most valuable on the team. But, Kev, I think that's the point we're looking at here. I would argue that Josh Allen doesn't play for the Bills. They might still win that division.
Yes, they will. They would.
Or they're at least in the hunt for it, because look at the rest of their division.
They've also played the Bills' record this season has also been very easy for them, not just in their own division, but just in general. Josh Allen is 2-3 against playoff teams this year, and I believe Lamar Jackson is 6-3 or 7-3 against playoff teams. So that just goes to show that there's been 10 teams that they've played that are either in the hunt or potentially going into the playoffs, or in the playoffs, I should say. So Lamar Jackson has could have the highest passer rating in NFL history. Plus, he broke Mike Vick's rushing record this season, and has the potential to go to 10,000 rushing yards in his career. You talk about historic. There's just been so many, and Dan Orlovsky talks about achievement. there's just so many things that Lamar's done this season alone by himself that if you're going to make the achievement argument, then Lamar's done that too, and he's done it better than Josh Allen has.
I think, Kevin, to go to the point about voter fatigue, that was a point being brought up.
Yeah, just admit it's that.
Well, but even saying voter fatigue, I think what Dan was also trying to say is that so many players, if you take them off their team, it's the same thing what I'm saying with Josh Allen. Of course, they're not the same team with Josh Allen, but neither is the Ravens, the Bengals, the Buccaneers.
Right.
There are like legitimately maybe 5 to 6 teams in the National Football League where you can say if you take their quarterback out that they're the same team. And it's usually teams that are looking for a quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any team, if you take away their starting quarterback, is going to look different. So that's why I think that argument is so like, well, they win less games if they don't have him. Yeah, of course. If literally you take Baker Mayfield, perfect example. Think if you take Baker Mayfield off the Bucs, they're still having this season? No
chance.
And that's without Godwin obviously missing part of the season. Mike Evans missing the part of the season. But Baker elevated his team, who lost all these weapons, but that doesn't mean he's the MVP.
He's having the best season of his career.
Yeah, it's just like any starting quarterback, especially in the upper echelon, is going to impact the team. That's why I think that whole same thing with the weapons thing. It's like, yeah, if you take away a guy's, top players, he's not going to play as well.
Joe Burrow does not deserve to be in the MVP conversation this year either.
I don't know. I think
I don't spend that argument.
I agree.
I think if they
you don't lose 8 games and
I think
no
I
chance.
don't think he wins it. I think he finishes top 3 if they make the playoffs.
Nope.
I don't think they will either.
I think they give it to him over Saquon. Just because they give it to a quarterback.
This is my thing, and actually, I'll pull up this comment by Mr. Oxner here because I agree with what he's saying. Because for those who missed it, Dan Orlovsky also 5 hours ago said that no one's throwing the football better than Joe Burrow. This is the best offense in the NFL. Just kind of talking about Joe Burrow. If we can remember who Joe Burrow has on his team in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, no one is talking about how Joe Burrow has those guys and is punishing him for having 2 all-star Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. When it's Lamar Jackson and he has Derrick Henry, all of a sudden we're going to punish Lamar Jackson for having a Pro Bowl talent on his side. It's the double standard that we've been seeing. You can talk about it for any number of conversations surrounding Lamar you want to, but we're seeing it thrown right in our faces almost every single week in a different way.
Yeah,
that's the conversation.
It's a great point to have. All great players impact their teams.
Yeah.
And without those MVP of their team, those teams are nowhere near. We saw what the Bengals were before Joe Burrow. We've seen when the Ravens don't have Lamar Jackson. We've seen, what else have we seen throughout the years? The list could go on and on. The value of your best player can never be completely magnified. But what we can do looking at this is you cannot then, for the first time in his career, Lamar had his best supporting cast. And ironically, to your point though, Kevin, and I'm happy they're getting the credit, but people are actually viewing Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers as top wide receiving options. And
Greatest of all time.
And just a year ago, it was, they need more wide receivers, which
the Ravens, ironically enough, the team, they lead the league in separation.
Yeah,
the wide receivers team.
They've had a great year,
and they've been phenomenal. But I think that the narrative for Baltimore for the longest time is that it's Lamar, and that was the argument for him last year. But all of a sudden they're going, wow, these Ravens wide receivers
it was even the argument this year. If you remember, after the Raiders lost in week 2, Ryan Clark, I think it was the Monday Night Countdown show after the Ravens lost to Las Vegas. He was like, Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers don't scare me if I'm an opposing defense. And now the conversation less than 4 months later is, oh, wow, Lamar Jackson has all this talent around him. When literally less than 4 months ago, we were talking about how he has nothing around him.
And also the offensive line. Remember all the
have a really good offensive line.
But the other part of it is this Ravens offensive line is a problem. And for the first few weeks and month of the season, 2 months, people were very worried about it.
It was bad.
But so that's the part of it that offense got better. You learn to work with the players that you have. I guess my point is things can be flipped however you want, and how it's been flipped over the last 3 months is that Josh Allen has now gained momentum, and then that Chiefs game happened. He has it. Those 2 games, the Lions and the Rams, they got it, right? It was that just like that, but it diminishes the other fact of, well, look, Josh had great games, and he beat the Lions, who, yes, they are the best team in the NFC. Had a great game against the Rams. They lost that game. For Lamar Jackson, though, record against the teams in the postseason, strength of schedule. Baltimore started 0-2 and is now going to, more than likely, knock on wood, win the division.
Yep.
So they've overcome a lot here, and Lamar on top of it. If he reaches a passer rating of like 139 this game, Brad, he will have the highest passer rating in an NFL season ever.
Yeah. And broke the rushing record. Like he could have almost 1,000 rushing yards and the best passer rating of all time.
Yeah. And you know what? I hope that Josh Allen gets an MVP. I hope he does. I think Josh right now is probably of the quarterbacks. Him and Lamar are my favorite two to watch.
What are we looking at?
Apparently, there was a this is very off topic. There was an incident that happened on Friday, it looked like, where the Gonzaga basketball team were on a plane, and almost there was another plane that was taking off, and they almost collided, and it almost like
What's with the plane crashes this week?
Okay, so maybe this is a good time to take a quick break and dissect this. So maybe this is to end the conversation, and I want to talk about it here in a second. Hold your thoughts here, Zach. We'll just end it with this. Every player, there's a lot of players that deserve MVP consideration. One of these would be this guy right here.
Oh, yeah.
One would be that guy in the locker room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a chance to be
Coach
the
of the
number
year.
1 seed. Coach of the year, Kevin O'Connell, with Sam Darnold, unbelievable season.
Yeah.
Phenomenal season.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's just dinking and dunking, just throwing to Justin Jefferson. Like he is
Jordan Addison, baby.
Jordan Addison, but on deep throws and talking about using his tight ends, being smart with the football. So they are winning because of Sam Darnold, not because of the ones around Sam Darnold.
Right.
That's number one. And then the other part of it is, Baker Mayfield. Those guys, awesome years. And there's a photo. This is why I wanted to end this conversation. There's a photo going around of Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold just 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen that photo?
Oh, with them on the Panthers. Yeah.
Let me pull that up on BR Gridiron. Pulled this up. Here we go. When I move, you move.
just like that.
Just like that.
They have combined for 78 touchdowns this season.
That's crazy.
This is a great example here when we're talking about in places. Also, never give up on yourself.
Oh.
Keep doing your thing.
Yep.
And right now, the Panthers let two franchise-esque quarterbacks.
Hell of a quarterback.
That's what I was saying. Like this could be the 2018 could be the great draft year for quarterbacks. Four of the 5 that were drafted in the first round are now franchise quarterbacks.
So yeah, actually, that's funny you bring that up. I was going to say that I was seeing a tweet, and it makes a lot of sense. You got to worry a little bit. Just statistically, by the numbers, is JJ McCarthy is he going to be horrible?
I don't think he's going to be horrible.
Well, because think about Caleb. I know the offensive line. He's shown. I know Brad. You don't always. He's shown the talent. He's shown the capability. I think you got to see him with the new actual system. Jane Daniels, unbelievable. Bo Nix has been incredible. Michael Penix, you see going down the field, leading that late drive, looking like that. Is it possible we have 5 good quarterbacks taken, and the odds of us getting 5? So you already have 4 good ones. It's really are we gonna have 5 good quarterbacks?
Well, they're gonna have to make a decision. I'll say what this is. I think they're gonna have the opportunity to let JJ McCarthy sit behind and relax. They want, because I don't see how you get rid of Sam Darnold. After
You gotta give him a 2-year deal.
I don't see how you do that.
I think you give Sam Darnold a 3-year deal on $150 million, and then you keep. Well, you try to. I don't know what you do.
I would just keep JJ for a couple of years and see what happens.
Do you, or do you use him as trade collateral?
Oh, if that happens and we're Josh Rosen, I don't think JJ McCarthy ever really sees much. I think getting tossed around like that can completely throw
because
they
could sign Danny Dimes, and then they have Danny as their number 2 who has NFL experience, and then you have JJ McCarthy as a trading piece, and then maybe you go out and get yourself a running back because Aaron Jones is good, but he's not what he once was. Something like that.
I swear, and they should, if the Vikings get Aston Genty from Boise State and they put him in that offense and Aaron Jones walks in a couple of years, I know you're not as big on Genty as I am, Zach.
Well, no, I'm not sure. I think they have bigger. I'm trying to think. That could.
To answer your question, I think that this year is a little bit
round
too early to call about quarterback class. But, I mean, they're certainly making the argument for, one of the best.
Well, and also this is the reminder too that sometimes great things take time to marinate, and you got to go through some shit situations to find out where you can be great. And for Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, they've just proven that they right now are not even top 12. They are top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. You could even argue that they are top 8 or top 6, depending on how far you want to go with this. But hey, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Before we dive into baseball and what's going on there, why don't we close out the NFL conversation with our odds on the MVP? And that is taking the trip up to Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Hey, that was good. Solid. But our friends up in West Virginia, Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races, hour from Owens Mills, hour and 15 from Baltimore, actually about an hour and a half from DC. You go there, they got a lot of things going on, but one of the things that is happening in 2025 is that the ESPN bet is going into the sports book there. We'll be back up there in the future to do more live streams and to celebrate that, but go up there, have a good time, and we have some other prizes that they want to give away with the grand opening. So stay tuned on that. Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. They also got voted best place to work out there in West Virginia when it comes to the gambling space and entertainment.
How about that?
How about that? When I move, you move. Just like that. And to close out this conversation, MVP race, Josh Allen sits at minus 320 as the favorite. Lamar Jackson plus 250. So if you're feeling a little frisky, you can throw that on there. Lamar Jackson, depending on how this final week goes, could steal an MVP, or in some people's minds, steal an MVP. Some people just outright win it. Hey, before we dive into the MLB talk here, Zach, let's talk about what's happening on the internet, on Zach's browsing history. So talk about us. Talk to us about this Gonzaga.
Oh, well, so
plane.
That actually, let me pull this back up. Very scary situation here. So pretty much, let me go back. Gonzaga's plane was on the runway.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, and another plane began to take off. And, well, there, I'll just...
There's a video of it? Oh, my gosh.
And
It's
wait
scary.
for it. That is Gonzaga's plane, and they just... And so apparently on the on the recording, you can hear people, I guess, in the control tower screaming, "Stop, stop, stop." And yeah, so very scary situation there. Very glad. So that happened Friday, I guess, or last week when they were going to face before their game against UCLA. Obviously everyone is safe. So that's what's important there, but very scary. That is,
that's what I was saying. Like, all the plane crashes and apparently close calls this past week have been crazy.
Very weird.
Azerbaijan, however you say that,
Azerbaijan.
Maybe got shot down, maybe didn't, but a crash anyway. And then South Korea plane crash. There was another one that crashed somewhere else in Canada or something like that. Just crazy week for air travel. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And then on a very different note for Vikings were at it again with the Sellies. Celebrations.
Damn right they were.
Yeah, so we saw.
Let's pick up the positivity.
Yeah, let's go.
As
you saw, what last week they did the Camp Rock celebration after getting the game-winning turnover. This week they kicked it back to a High School Musical, and the best part of these is we are now seeing the behind the scenes of them. So here I'll add this to say this is the practice beforehand, how they are getting ready for the celebration. So if you think all these team celebrations just happen out of nowhere, no, there's rehearsals before the game. And I love this, the film study. So if you think the Vikings are just,
it's
incredible.
They're just having fun. They're just having fun.
That's what it's about, man. Like, this is when you're talking about enjoying it to the fullest, and this is how you know the Vikings are a true team. They're picking up their quarterback. They're celebrating every moment. Everyone's involved, and they're all bought in. Like, this makes you be like, man, I wish I was a part of the Vikings. Or, man, I would root for this team. They are fun. They look like they enjoy going to work.
I would.
Maybe we need to work on some celebrations here at the
High School
Ryan Ripken
Musical
Show.
ones.
Hey, we've had some dance celebrations,
I would say
yeah.
celebrations.
which we'll see towards the end of the show. In case anybody missed those throughout the year,
Our year in review.
we will have a highlight reel of 2024 coming up here towards the end of the show. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that.
You don't want to miss that.
So I think it's a good time then, fellas. I think we should talk a little bit of baseball. A lot of things have happened. We're thinking about, just depending on the scheduling, New Year's Day is when we do our MLB Hot Stove Happy Hour, which is up in the air, just depending on scheduling. So we want to make sure we talk about some baseball activity. And guys, I think the biggest baseball activity was that Corbin Burnes signed at 1:30 in the morning Eastern time.
Can we stop doing that? Why is baseball always got to
Please.
announce the top guys?
Well, you guys, I
4 a.m.
I woke up. Kevin, you said, "Do you want to hop on?" I said, "Absolutely not."
I tried.
You tried. And then I fell back asleep to wake up, and you guys were still going at 3 a.m.
Yeah, 3. I think 3:08 when we finally ended.
Yeah, it went for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for people behind the scenes, we talked about this.
And you still had numbers.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
about
in like
100.
the 120s
Yeah.
at like 3 a.m. And Kevin literally texted in the group like after the news broke, and he's like, "Wow, are we really going live right now?" And I responded, "No." and then because I'm literally in bed 95% asleep, I'm like, "What? He wants to go live right now?" And then he's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go live if we can." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm getting up." I was like, "We're getting up," and then of course, after you do the show, you're all, antsed up. So I was sitting in bed at like 4:30 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how at 1:15 I was about to have my eyes closed for good.
Yeah, I had my whole night planned out, and then just
Kevin.
Hey, you hadn't recorded. I heard that.
No,
part. You're like,
I
no, I
haven't
haven't recorded Locked
It's
On Ravens.
3:08,
yet.
and I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. And Kevin's like, yep, I'm actually gonna record Locked On Ravens after this.
This is my dinner time. Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I heard you said you had Chipotle ready or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Wild. We're gonna, you know what? Maybe is that a New Year's resolution for you? 2025, somewhat normal schedule, or still on Dracula?
Yeah. Improving every year. So every year it's been to get a little bit better, and obviously there are ebbs and flows to how that goes throughout the year. But hey, I've come a long way from the 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. days of my sleep. I've come a long way.
You really have, and I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
You're a good kid for that. But you know what? The news, though, Corbin Burnes out to the Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million, with an opt-out after 2 years. And it was no surprise, and this is something we've talked about for a while. He wanted to go where he wanted to go, and that was Arizona. And that's where he signed. He turned down, the reports are true, he left $40 million on the table. And I know taxes and all that, taxes can add up and to take things off, but he wanted to be in Arizona. Young family, young kids. He can live there. And I think on the player side, people don't always realize, look how long players take to get to free agency. And then not only do you get to free agency, look at how many guys are still waiting for an opportunity somewhere. Yeah. Corbin was one of the rare ones where he is so sought out, he could pick and choose where he wanted to go and get paid a lot. Mm-hmm. That's like the 1% of 1% of the 1% of the 1%. He earned that right. And it took 9 years, I think 9 years for him to get to free agency since he got drafted. And good for him. He chose the spot, but I know a lot of Oriole fans were disappointed. They were frustrated because they're saying, well, the Orioles should have made a deal. They should have had it done. Why didn't they let him? If they gave him a deal, he wouldn't refuse. But players, guys, as we talked about, it's not just about the money value. Yeah, you could say everyone has a price, but for some guys, they just have other values that they stick to. So I think it's a good time to play a clip. One of the Giants' previous president of operations, Farhan Saidi, talked about this on Foul Territory when the question was, well, why didn't the Giants, who are a bigger market team, why couldn't you sign Bryce Harper, Shohei Ohtani, or Aaron Judge? So let's play that clip for you guys.
Out on these guys, because I played in San Francisco. It's a great place.
It's a great question. And, when I look back, when you're talking about Harper, Judge, Ohtani, these are like 3 of the 5 best players in baseball. So I guess we took some big swings. Obviously, what happened with Carlos Correa was very unfortunate. But we took big swings, and with each of those guys, I think Bryce had some concerns about the ballpark. That can happen at times when you're trying to sign a position player, not always. Some guys are just East Coast guys and prefer to be there. I look at Aaron Judge. I mean, he had a legacy with the New York Yankees, one of the signature franchises in baseball, and it was kind of hard to pull him away from that. We tried, but ultimately didn't work. And then, you look at Shohei, he was building a house in Southern California. Obviously, the Dodgers have been really successful. So I don't know that there's really a common thread. We took some swings and they were swings and misses, and I take responsibility for that. I really pushed back hard on this narrative that nobody wants to play in San Francisco. Nobody wants to play for the Giants. It's a great city. It's a great organization. I have been so happy in my time in San Francisco, and I wish the organization the best. And I know they're going to continue to be able to attract players. And, Willie Adames a couple weeks ago is just the last example of that.
So right there, the reason why I wanted to bring that up, he just gave different examples of why a player and the top players wouldn't come to San Francisco. And that is a organization that has had a lot of history. It is a great ballpark. It is, honestly, I know people are saying about, San Francisco, the city's on the way down. It's a great place to go play. It is a great city, great organization. But the first part, Bryce apparently worried about the actual.
I mean, that triples alley in San Francisco for a lefty is no joke. It's a lot of flyouts instead of home runs.
So that's one thing you're hearing. Ballpark dimensions is one.
Yeah.
Number two, some guys might just want to be where they want to be. East Coast guys. Remember with Trey Turner? Dodgers wanted him back. He's like, you know what? I'm more of an he's an East Coast guy playing for the Phillies. Aaron Judge, you're with the Yankees. You have a chance to be this iconic figure in New York history. Yeah, it made the world of sense for Aaron Judge to stay with the New York Yankees. And then now you're looking at Corbin Burnes. Family. Wanted to stay home or closer to it and took less money to do that. So there's so many different factors that go in to signing a player. And I think that was the discussion I wanted to have with people. And this is the only time that players can actually have a say with what they want to do. Because everything else, they're under control. They're trying to get to free agency, or they're getting traded away and they're going to wherever they're, being assigned to. And again, it looks at the guys right now who are not the big name free agents that are looking just for an opportunity to go play.
Well, and based on what we've heard from Scott Boras, the Orioles and Mike Elias have made some pretty aggressive offers and moves that just haven't panned out. So I think as a fan of the organization and two other fans that may have kind of trashed the organization a little bit based off of the moves that may or may not have happened, it's not because of lack of trying. It's just sometimes players just don't want to be. They want to be somewhere else, and it doesn't matter what the money is. I mean, the only thing I could say is that unless the Orioles were willing to grossly overpay Corbin Burnes, he was going to the West Coast no matter what.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is I would be upset if it came out that Corbin went 6 years, 210 with the Red Sox, with the Yankees, with a team right here on the East Coast, because then you're sitting there and you're going, okay, well, why weren't the Orioles willing to do that? Reports are out there. He took less money to go to Arizona. That is where he wanted to play. I don't think, like you said, Brad, it would have had to be a ridiculous offer for him, I believe, to stay in Baltimore. And it's nothing to do with he doesn't believe in the team. It's nothing to do with, he hated it here. He hated the players. He hated all that. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go home. That's where
reports
he lives.
are coming out that the Blue Jays offered him $250, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rumor, but that's some reputable sources are saying that he was offered $250.
And the other thing was
Toronto.
Bob Nightingale reported that the Orioles, it was a franchise record that they were offering for the deal. I mean, the reality is some guys just have a certain amount of money. And I told you guys this from the beginning. I didn't expect him to come back because of what I knew with his situation. And every player has a different circumstance. And I would have been ticked off if I was an Oriole fan if he went to Toronto or he went to Boston or he went to New York.
Yes.
Hell, the other report that came out is that the Giants had this big deal on the table for Corbin for the longest time, and he was waiting for a team to offer more money. To be honest, it was just for Arizona to give him what he wanted.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. They were saying that the Giants were growing impatient. Why were the Giants going impatient? We can play a little hypothetical. Maybe it's because they knew the one place he really wanted to be was Arizona. And they were trying to pry him away, just like the other teams were trying to pry him away.
Yeah.
And he just wanted Arizona to give him what they wanted. And as soon as he got that value, 210, and also the opt-out, by the way, which is crazy.
Insane.
Most teams are like, well, no, we're not going to do that. Like, what the heck's the point of that? He offered that so it could give his family flexibility. Arizona gave him what he wanted, and the other teams also gave him what he wanted, but that's not what was best for his interest. Just like that, that's how long it waits. But Kevin, now it's what happens next?
Yeah, I mean, I think the disappointing part, I think most people in Baltimore kind of figured that something along these lines was going to happen, him going to the West Coast, whether it was the Giants or the Diamondbacks coming in as a surprise team. But I think the disappointing part and kind of the questions are because we've seen the Red Sox go out there and get some guys to help them next season and improve their team. The Yankees lose Juan Soto. Well, they go out there and they sign Max Fried, and they're bringing in guys as well. And we're seeing other teams make moves. And for the Orioles, they've made a couple of offensive moves. But I think that based off of the expectations of the offseason, and Zach and I talked about this on Kevin and Zach React, the Orioles put the expectations on themselves by getting Corbin Burnes in the first place. They made that deal. It was obviously a big thing at the time. It was this huge move. And you're like, okay, talking about lifting off and it's only up from here and making these big moves. The Orioles, they did that. And then coming off of the disappointing playoff series to Kansas City, you're thinking, all right, even if the Orioles don't bring back Corbin Burnes or if Corbin goes, I think the other disappointing part is there wasn't a plan B that worked out for them. It feels like we're talking about Evaldi. We're talking about, would they go out there and get a Fried or someone else like that? And we're still sitting here with no Corbin anymore. And look, I want to make clear, the offseason is not over yet. There's still time for the Orioles to make moves. There's still time for them to make a trade or another addition. But I just think it looks this way right now because the Orioles missed out on a couple of guys that I know we all have talked about as potential options. And the options continue to dwindle. And now they don't have the possibility of a Corbin coming back anymore.
I'll say this. I think there's only two specific players that the Orioles, if they wanted to, could have gotten. I think Sean Manaea and Nathan Evaldi, as much as that was like, hey, that made sense for the team. They went back to the teams that they just spent time with. Sean Manaea found himself with the Mets. They gave him a really good deal. Hey, why leave something? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same with Nathan Evaldi. And yes, no tax, state tax in Texas is nice, but they go back to the teams that they had success and familiarity with. No problem. Corbin made sense. I still don't think Max Fried, when the 8 years is involved for a pitcher, that's just something that's unheard of.
It's absurd.
Unheard of. So 8 years, okay, Max Fried's going for 8 years to the Yankees, and he's a hell of a pitcher. Yankees got a good addition, but there is some risk there. Blake Snell, 5 years. I think the Orioles were very in on him, but Blake Snell, where do you want to be?
Yeah.
In LA. You can't compete with a player that's like, you know what? I think you're great, but I'm going to go to a place where I want to be, and they gave me the money. That's that. So I think the two players that they could have had a chance at, Garrett Crochet, if they really wanted him, which they possibly could. And then the other player that Boston got was Walker Buehler. Yeah. I think that those are the two players right then and there where you go, you know what? If we really wanted those guys, we could have gotten them right now. My guess with Walker Buehler, they're sitting there going, well, coming off an injury, was that high of the postseason the pinnacle moment? Are we going to risk that money? Well, we'll find that out. But Garrett Crochet, if you believe in the hype of what he can be and almost be like a Chris Sale 2.0, which ironically, the Red Sox, it's very similar to the deal they made to get Chris Sale from the White Sox, how many years ago it was. I think that was a move because they had the prospects to do it if they wanted to do it. So I understand where the frustrations are there because you could have had someone bring it home. I think it's not that the Orioles don't lack pitching options. They have about 7 starters they could choose from, but it's that they don't have the anchor that they want, right? Is that a fair assessment, guys, of what they have?
I feel like Corbin last year, and this is not questioning Grayson Rodriguez's talent or questioning Zach Eflin's talent, even Kyle Bradish at this point, but it just felt like with Corbin there, he brought the stability and honestly the luxury of having a star-stud ace pitcher as your one, and then having Grayson and Bradish and all those conversations we had, and bring Eflin into that equation too. It's like having that luxury of like the guy and then having a bunch of other potential the guys who we already know are great players, but have another maybe 2, 3, 4 gears they can kick it into. Now you just have to rely on those guys a little bit more. I know there's still possibilities of trades that could happen, which we could maybe talk about as well, but I just feel like it was the stability and the luxury of having an ace like that now they no longer have. And Grayson could certainly be that guy. I mean, they have options like you talked about, but now it's just a little more uncertain. I think that's what's worrying.
The uncertainty is certainly there, and there is growing, I guess, sentiment that now the Orioles' only option is to hit the trade market. I'll show this here. There's shared by the MLB Network, notable available starting pitchers. And you look at this list here, and you're not convinced that you're going to be signing Jack Flaherty. The O's aren't going to go after him. Roki Sasaki's probably going to go with the West Coast team. Then you kind of look at Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, and Rip, you talked about this a little bit about how Max Scherzer could be that veteran presence that maybe provides that stability you're talking about, Kevin. But in my opinion, I think the trade market is really kind of the only option for the Orioles at this point. But that isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of trade capital that the O's have that they can, and honestly, that they really need to trade some people with, because they don't. There's so much talent in the prospects that there really isn't any room for them. I mean, what do you do with Kobe Mayo? What do you do with Heston Kjerstad? What do you do with a lot of these guys that have so much talent and there's just no room for them on the roster?
Yeah, there's a ton. There's a ton of decisions they have to make. Plus, they have a lot of outfield talent at different levels in the minor league system, right?
Yeah.
So they do have to
Honeycutt's
figure out
in there now, and you got
Enrique Bradfield Jr. Yeah. You have a lot of guys that you're going to have to make decisions on, and it's a good problem to have. But also for the Orioles, this is the other part of it, is how much do you trust the players that you have on the pitching side? So Zach Eflin, you know what you have. Grayson Rodriguez, you know what you believe you have.
Yeah.
But he's got to stay healthy. Has to stay healthy. So one thing that could stop Grayson's development is not being able to pitch. If he's on the field, Grayson's going to be an all-star. Like he has every makings of an all-star pitcher. Dean Kramer, if he keeps building off of it, Dean becomes a really solid 3 or 4 for any big league staff. Mm-hmm. He's learning along the way. Now it's going to be, all right, do you take a risk on another young guy, or do you go and get a guy that you feel is going to, no doubt, check the list? That's going to be the person you want it to be. Like, that's where it sits with. I think for Baltimore, if you're a team where it's hard to attract certain players, which it has been, and your focus is extending players in the future on your current team, then the trade pipeline looks the most fitting. And I don't know if we want to go around and do a quick little exercise on what you would like to see and what type of either a free agent move. Do you want to start with a free agent move down the stretch, or do you just want to start with a trade?
We could do a free agent move. I think we can. I think it's fine to do both. I mean, we specifically talking about the biggest need the Orioles have is pitching, so we just stick with pitchers. I feel like that's just to make it easy, simple.
Yeah. So pitching move.
I think and this isn't going to be fans aren't going to like this, but Jack Flaherty, I think, could come back. Jack Flaherty didn't have a great experience. Fans didn't have a great experience with Jack Flaherty when he was here, but I think he was still coming off of that injury, and we saw what he did in LA. I think that I think that's the Jack Flaherty we could potentially get back here in Baltimore. So in my opinion, as far as free agents are concerned, I think Jack Flaherty could be a good signing.
Okay. Kev?
If there was a free agent move that I would predict for Baltimore, I would go Nick Pivetta. Zach, I said this on Kevin and Zachary. I look at him shaking his head. I feel like that's the move, whether, that's the move you want them to make or not. It just feels like Pivetta is the most realistic option to me out of the names available on the board here. I could see them maybe taking a 1-year shot at a Verlander or a Scherzer, but I just feel like Pivetta coming over from Boston is my most realistic free agent prediction for the Orioles, as much as Zach hates it.
No, it was the way you worded it. It was when we were talking about it originally. I was like, I don't know, we misunderstood each other.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All about the misunderstanding.
I was asking him a question about, okay, what's the big move? Trade, sign, what do you think the big move is for us? And he goes, I think the Orioles replace Corbin with Nick Pivetta. And I was like,
okay,
Kevin,
so it was a misunderstanding.
I was like, Kevin, they better not. I was like, but if there is a guy that I'm going to say, I think they make a trade, but it's the veteran leadership. I think a guy like Max Scherzer he checks a lot of boxes. He's that great team guy. You want him in the clubhouse. You want him there to help these young pitchers, whether it be the mental side of the game or exactly what he's seeing. I think he just overall, if it's a move where you're going to get a guy from, we'll talk about trades in a second. You go get your more front end guy from a team like the Mariners, from like a Dylan Cease from the Padres. You get him and you bring in a Max Scherzer to help round out the depth at the end, while also being the veteran presence, that veteran voice in the room. I think that works out well for them.
Yeah. So I know people don't like it. I'm my opinion, Zach, and you said it. I think Scherzer would be the veteran you'd bring in. If I'm looking at a guy where, yes, is he older? And I understand he's older, but when he's pitched, has it been because his stuff has gone away or that he just has to stay healthy? Last year, he was hurt. I think he pushed himself too far in the postseason the year before to try to pitch in the World Series, and that set him back in 2024. Then they kind of were like, all right, you're getting back on track. That was it. I think Scherzer also knows what it takes to win. And I think that people really underestimate taking that to win. I like Jack. I just have a hard time seeing the reunion. That's just my only thing is I have a hard time seeing the reunion with Jack Flaherty coming back to Baltimore. But I do lean, I don't see them going after Quintana. I don't think that makes sense. Pivetta would make the most sense outside of a guy like Scherzer for me. And I know this name keeps popping up. Lauren, I know you mentioned it, and Josiah. Trevor Bauer is not going to be an option. And it's not me hating on the guy. It's not doing anything like that. I
don't know why people won't shut up about this guy. Just give up. Like he's not coming back. It's
not, again, that I don't think that he has a good arm, that he has good stuff. There are things outside of it. You can say that he's burned bridges but whatever it is, it's not an Orioles thing.
Yeah.
It's an MLB thing at this point in time.
Correct.
And so that's something that I don't touch on it, not because of things, guys. It's just more so of I'm just being realistic. It's just not going to happen. Whatever reasons people are upset about, that's just the reality of it. So we'll see if the Orioles make another free agent move.
Fans would, I think, go nuts and hate it. But a veteran, if it's to just get a veteran guy in there, would you be open to Kyle Gibson reunion?
I would, but also Kyle, I think, went back there for family reasons to St. Louis, right?
Yeah, so
but I would be open to it because you know what? The most valuable Oriole that no one talked about in 2023 was Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
I have a wild question.
Oh, boy.
Wild question.
This is so scary.
If the Orioles knew that Corbin would leave after one season, would they still make the trade?
Yes.
I think they knew. I think they did it.
I think the Orioles thought that they were going to make a deep playoff run. And they would need somebody like Corbin Burnes to do that.
I think it was a risk they needed to take.
I agree.
So this is the one thing for everyone that's getting mad at the front office. And I understand you're looking at it. Hey, we've heard liftoff. Why don't you sign players? What I just mentioned about free agents wanting to get players wanting to get the free agency, they want the opportunity and the choice because they feel like they're under control for a while. Corbin was not with the organization. So the only other player that was openly saying he wanted to extend early was Austin Hayes. We know what happened there. Hayes moves on. They traded him. That reunion is not going to happen, right? But then the players right now, because it's still time, is Adley, Gunnar, Westberg, and then it's going to end up being Grayson or Dean Kramer, one of those guys that you want to do. So we're just going into this period of time, but a lot of agents are not going to want to take on a deal early unless you're the Atlanta Braves, which is really the only team that's had ridiculous extensions left and right. It's the only team I can think of in baseball. So let's see how that plays out. But the point I'm trying to make, Kevin, to your thing, the Orioles knew the risk with Corbin, but they said, our team can win right now. Yeah. So they risked it. They said, Joey, DL, appreciate you, and a pick. We're going to go get one of the best pitchers in the game. And the Orioles can't account for having all the injuries that they did have. And they still, this is the crazy thing. If they beat the Royals series, I still am sticking with, I think that they beat the Yankees in a best of 5 and go to the AL series.
I do too.
Yeah.
In baseball, it's about matchups. The Orioles just matched up well with the Yankees.
Yep.
The Royals did not. The Guardians, even though it was a hell of a series, the Yankees dominated the Central. That matters. The Orioles would have had the best chance to overthrow the Yankees in the American League East. It's about matchups. So I think that the Orioles leading into it trade-wise, you guys want me to tell you who I think that the Orioles, if they're going to look at it for trades?
Yeah.
I do think if you don't want to play the gamble with Cease, but we'll play that out. If you gamble for Cease, it's going to cost you, I think, a little bit less than what you paid for Corbin Burnes. So you're going to give up one top prospect, maybe give up another fringe and either give up a pick or you give up another lower prospect, which I think that the Orioles can do. So if that's the case for Cease, I'd say they'd give up one of their top 10 prospects, could be in the middle. I don't think, I'll tell you who it's not going to be. Sam Basayo, no. That's no.
Yeah.
But you can put on the table, would you, for Heston, Kobe Mayo, or one of your outfield prospects, and then maybe give up one of your pitchers, which if you're going to do Cease, I would say not give up a McDermott or a Povich. Okay. Next one, I think this is the most realistic option, is you go to Seattle. Seattle, knock on the door. Hey, let's make a deal. Castillo, how would you guys value Castillo? 31, 32. Is he a number 2 starter? You look at him as a good 2, 3?
Yeah, I would say he's a mid-end 2.
Yeah, he's not a replacement for Corbin by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But he is definitely quality starter. You might get 2-3 years of good quality pitching out of him.
I'd put him as I would say that next slight step above like an Eflin.
Yeah.
I think he's a very solid, what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's very comparable to Eflin.
So in that case, if you had a Castillo-esque, Grayson, Castillo, Eflin,
feeling pretty good.
Dean, feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good rotation. If they get Castillo, I think that they would give up a little bit more. I think that they would have to give up the Mayo and Heston, and then one of their outfield prospects on top of it, because the Mariners, I think,
need bats.
They'd want bats, and then decide if it's not Heston or Kobe, would you be willing to move Mountcastle? But the reason why I don't think Mountie fits there, it's only if the Mariners would be willing to extend Ryan Mountcastle. And there's reports out right now, Pete Alonso turned down a 3-year, $90 million deal, reportedly, to go to the Mets. So the Mariners are still in play. But if that doesn't happen, Mountie's going to be a free agent here soon. So if you're the Mariners, you got to weigh that. And I just don't know if the Orioles, I value Mountie too much. I think that it'd be one of those other guys. You give 2 bats and an arm for a pitcher. Now, if the pitcher is Miller or Wu, then the Orioles are giving up one of their big guys, maybe 2.
Would you guys give up Heston plus another, a Heston plus an Enrique plus a pitcher for a guy like, Miller or Wu?
If it was Miller, probably.
I would too. I love Heston. I think he's got a very, I talked about this, I think on Kevin and Zach React. If they really wanted to, if you want to go send Heston plus for a young controllable guy from Seattle, not a Luis Castillo, one of the younger guys, I would be okay with doing that. And then, look to replace the outfielder, because I think that's going to be easier than finding the start at this high-end pitcher with control.
Yeah.
So that's my, I just think that that's what it'd be. Mariners want bats. I don't know exactly what the Padres want.
Yeah.
But Cease will be a less of a deal. Castillo, Miller would be the most. Wu would be the most. Castillo is somewhere in the middle, where I think, honestly, Eflin has similar team control. So it's just we're saying a little bit better Eflin. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So I think that gives 2 bats and maybe an arm. But if you want Miller, which I don't think they're going to give up, you're going to have to give up one of your premium guys. But one guy that's not going anywhere is Sam Basayo. It's no ands, ifs, or buts.
I would go Gilbert, any of their controllable guys.
Yeah. If I were to put my Mike Elias hat on, and I didn't want to give up a ton of talent to get a good quality starter, I'd probably go to the Cardinals and try to see what they're willing to offer, or what they want for Eric Fedde.
It would be very interesting for Fed,
because he 3.30 ERA last year, pitched 177 innings, like good quality starter that the Orioles would need in a rotation that that you can rely on, and you might not have to give up a lot, because Eric Fedde in the past, before last year, had some injury issues and went through quite a journey to get to last year. And the Cardinals already have come out and said that they're looking to rebuild this year. They're looking to kind of clean house, so to speak, and they want to kind of rebuild from within. So you kind of expect them to have a down year this year, and so they're looking to make deals. I would think the Eric Fedde conversation could be up there.
I do too. And what's funny? I saw also Doug Dimmadome, the Fairly Odd Parents, home of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Pablo Lopez is funny. Sat down with Derek Falvey, the president of the Twins, at the winter meetings.
Yep.
And I don't think they're going to give him up, because that's their anchor. They extended him. That's who they're going to kind of build around.
Yeah.
That was a player that they identified and got early.
Yeah.
But that's what the Orioles are trying to look for, is a guy that maybe is an up-and-comer or a guy that they have team control that they can lock in for a little bit longer.
I'm going to go completely off the rails.
Oh, boy.
Which is not new for me.
No, it's not.
My realistic option is Castillo. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Shane McClanahan.
From the Rays.
Give me Shane.
And I know why, but why don't you explain
of the
why?
Baltimore connection, obviously. Some of his best memories involved. But he's also a great pitcher, by the way. Like, it's not just because he's from the area or, grew up in the area for a little bit. But I think I've seen a lot of people making that connection. Now, obviously, that would cost you, I think, a different realm of package to go get a guy like that. But, if nobody expected Corbin to be available when the Orioles traded for him. Yeah. And who knows what the Rays season is going to look like this season. It just feels like every year it's different and it's some crazy year for them. So I don't think it's completely, is it likely? No, it's not very likely, but is it out of the realm of possibility? For the sake of going off the rails, I'm going to say, no, it's not out of the realm.
Listen, if they reported that Shane McClanahan was going to the Baltimore Orioles and I said, what did they give up? And they just said the farm system. I'd be like, yes. I'd be like when this guy, I know injury concerns, all that, obviously, when he is healthy, there's not a better pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Ooh.
I think he is disgusting.
I mean, so Shane McClanahan, for those that want to know, right? It's for those that don't, Tampa Bay in division, but Shane is a stud. And the Rays obviously don't extend a ton of guys. They have a different type of situation. But yeah, I think that's again going to be one of the best options for the Orioles. And then the bigger thing is like extend a guy like Grayson or extend a guy like Dean if things continue to work out well. But that's what we're going to have to see play out. But one thing I do want to remind people, and this is why I preach patience, there's so much time left, 2 months to be exact till spring training, or less than that now.
Yeah.
The biggest move of the offseason for any Major League Baseball team was Corbin Burnes being traded to the Orioles right before spring training. So before we jump down what can or can't happen, there is a lot of time. And the one name that everyone's still waiting to drop is going to be Roki Sasaki.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. When that dude makes a decision,
come on, Seattle.
I think we're going to see a lot of teams start to pick up the pace here. Now, the reports right now are Roki. He met with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
That's 6 teams now that he has sat down and talked with. And I believe of the 6 teams, they are predominantly out on the West Coast. Dodgers are kind of the favorite. Mets are up there as well. So if that's the case, right now they're saying potential landing spots: Padres, Dodgers, Mets, Mariners, Cubs.
God,
maybe Boston.
I feel like there's going to be no they always talk about the middle class getting destroyed in the U.S. economy. There's going to be no middle class as far as the MLB teams are concerned. You're either going to just suck or you're going to be an absolute powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just absolutely crazy the way that these players are being moved around. And if Sasaki goes to the Dodgers, the Mets, whatever, it's just going to be like, of course he did.
Well, the Dodgers are just setting such a wild precedent for how to spend money. Like, it is unbelievable, especially with the
Mets too.
Yeah.
With the deferrals and everything that's going on now. It just seems like there's so much of that. And
the Mets have no deferrals on Juan Soto.
That one is crazy.
And then continued to spend money after that.
Yeah.
Well, I think a big point to bring up here, or at least that I want to play this clip. Roki wants to go where he can be developed. Xavier Scruggs with MLB Network and MLB Radio went on and said, but they said about he thinks it's going to be the Dodgers, not just because they are the connection, one of the best teams. It's because he believes that how they develop guys.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
The Dodgers develop the hell out of players. There's a reason why they're so good. They spend a lot of money, but their farm system sneaky just knows
they're
always
like top
They
6.
know what to
Pitchers,
do.
though?
Yes.
Yusniel Diaz, hashtag Orioles legend.
So Mariners or Dodgers as far as pitching staff is concerned? As far as pitcher development?
I'd still take Dodgers.
Development, Dodgers. If we're going current staff, I really like the Mariners.
I love the Mariners of Kirby, Miller, Wu.
If you're going to look at the Mariners, I think also taking into account age, just because they're all so young and just their potential's through the roof.
I think people forget that with Dustin May, just wasn't pitching injury, and his two-seamer move is about 3 feet. I don't know how how that feels.
Incredible hair.
incredible here. We could talk about this forever, guys. We really could. But the one thing we want to see is if Roki Sasaki, if and when he makes his decision, we're going to see then the other teams try to be aggressive. And I do think Baltimore is going to be aggressive for one more arm. I do. So that's all I got for that. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. Do this live every Monday, Thursday, and when the Ravens play. Now during baseball season, we are still trying to figure out a 2025, but the Orioles baseball, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot planned. Kevin and Zach Reacts will do every game that the Orioles play. But we're going to have so much baseball coverage that I don't know what people are going to do with what we have in store. So anything I know we want to do in review. I don't know if we have time for call-ins today.
No, we don't. But I got a poll.
You got a poll? Pull it up.
Pull it up. It's on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, fellas.
Happy New Year.
I made a poll and asked people what they do on New Year's Eve. So do you go out with friends? You host friends and party there? You just stay home alone? Or you're just in bed by 9 because New Year's Eve is overrated? And the majority, 66% out of 50 votes, said that they just stay home alone. That's kind of sad.
I'm all alone. There's no one here
downtown.
besides me.
Yeah, I know where
I'll be.
Zach's not gonna
I'll
be
be
Shocking.
downtown if
Not
you're ever at
shocking.
Federal Hill. I will be.
You getting pizza at Federal Hill?
Oh, I will wait. I will be stopping at Tiny Brick Oven.
Tiny Brick.
Oh,
Oven.
yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
incredible story.
I need to go.
I
I
know.
might go today
I'm while
on
I'm
the
down
way
there,
home.
Yeah, while I'm down there I'm going there for sure.
It's over in Fed, right?
Yeah, it's on Light Street, I think.
All right, I'm going to go there on the way home.
There you
That's
go.
already decided. Going there after the show
All right.
on the way back.
Love that.
Love it.
More carbs.
More carbs. I said no carbs today, but you know what? Just kidding.
More cowbell.
You know, I was going to do an Austin Powers line, but you don't know it. More cowbell for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
But I honestly, the New Year's time, holiday time, it's a time for you guys to enjoy being with your loved ones, your family, however you want to celebrate. Zach, I was your age at one point where I was standing in lines down at the bars or going to a club and being out late. And we had one story. One of my buddies locked everyone out of the apartment in Boston.
Hate that.
Ooh.
Luckily, I was living there and had my own apartment, but locked out about 12 people.
Nice.
Not
Yeesh.
ideal. You know what? Not ideal.
Not ideal.
Don't
but
have to go home, but you can't stay here.
You can't stay here. And maybe for your New Year's resolution, Zach, you can get better at gridiron golf, which you can now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, your family, the Bollingers, should be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did figure out one thing about gridiron golf is not only is it very fun, but if you have a golden retriever, it will take a nap on gridiron golf. My family got gridiron golf for Christmas to improve the skills, and my dog Buddy immediately decided
Just to lay on it.
That's a
Yeah.
What is it about the going? Because like our studio pup also ate
Yeah.
two out of the 4 balls.
He heard Studio Pup and he awoke.
I
down
will
there.
also say that about 4 minutes into it, I was suddenly looking around. I was like, there are only 3 golf
Oh,
balls. And then I was
no.
like, oh, Buddy. And I looked, I got it in time. But I was like, all golden retrievers are the same.
They are.
They really are. They really, really are. But they're great dogs, and gridiron golf is a lot of fun. I can't wait. I think got to be figuring out what we're doing here in the future. But it is a fun game. You know what I also love about gridiron golf? The reason why they started it, father-son, about family and Baltimore connection. That's why we're involved with them. And it's a game which we think is going to slowly but surely sweep across the nation here.
Marcus says beating Brad at golf in spring training
Woo!
is my goal. I mean, I don't know. That's not really a lofty goal, but hey, I'm all for it. If we want to do it, that's fine by me.
I think we should. We're bringing it down. Hey, we're bringing it to Florida. We're going to see how people can putt.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I was thinking about? I'm staring at this bottle of Deep Eddy. This might come with me for making New Year's cocktails
There you
tomorrow.
go.
Because if I am at home tomorrow night, hanging out, you know what? I'm going to have a nice drink. I do. You guys know I love my tequila, but Deep Eddy vodka, it's like a chef's kiss for any cocktail.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. Nick also, this is going to happen as well, but
God, my favorite Nick moment. There are a couple, but it's when he got interviewed for the Today Show, and he was pulling out his golf club, and he goes, "It's only downhill from here, boys."
Yep. And then pipes it.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. You know what? What was some of your guys' favorite memories of this year for the show?
Man, there are a lot for me. I mean, it was my 1 year a couple days ago for this show.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Wow.
just like I remember my first episode, I didn't know coming into the studio, it's kind of crazy to see how much has changed in a good way. Like,
I mean, look at this place.
from where the studio was to where it is now.
It's wild.
You know, all of us being on for the 10,000 stream was really cool when we were watching the live subscriber count go up.
Yeah.
That was really nice. I think the cat story will hold a special place in everybody's heart for
Forever and ever.
for me.
Yes.
Expanding into starting Kevin and Zach React and me doing all types of crazy potato, corn dog, ramen things, which will continue into this next year. But it's been a crazy year in a really good way, and it's been really fun for me to be a part of this thing and to keep it going. So that's what I got.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about where we have started, what the journey's looked like in the process after. You know, our goal isn't supposed to just be, you know, here. We have a great community, but we're trying to keep going around the country. Hell, we might even try to go international. Mike Bauman talking to you, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Mike called earlier, and we were talking about Chopin.
Yeah, and he just told me about don't go to Tiny Brick Oven right now and get that pizza. I might, Mike. I might. B is a T, but it is the holidays. But it's also, but in all seriousness, it's our goal. We want to keep growing. And Kev, you know, I was giving you a round of applause. It reminded me of a great moment when you thought Joe was supporting you.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite moments.
It's the story that counts, and I'll say Joe was supporting me.
You know what?
It was. Zach, you got one?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's gotta be this. Cheers.
Oh my goodness.
Just January?
Yeah, it was in February because it was the day
February.
after we traded for Corbin.
Oh no.
One chip challenge.
I remember when your hair was that long.
Yeah, I hate my life already.
We did this for 5,000.
This 5,000.
We should not have done this.
Swallowed it, and I am just in so much pain. My face just got numb.
Uh-oh.
Happy places, happy places.
The
The Orioles got Corbin Burnes.
Loud noises.
The Orioles got Corbin Burnes.
Rocco is legitimate. Rocco is sweating. He's legitimately sweating.
In that direction with the MLB because the team wants stability and they want to get their guy, and the player wants.
You know, it's serious when a hat
I think
comes
the
off.
mouth pain right now is starting to go away. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like,
Cheers.
This is a chip.
This is crying.
Am I?
Crying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was insane. I remember you guys like, oh, we should all do it. You know, Brad and I aren't doing,
I
doing
didn't want to do
shit.
it either. I didn't
Listen,
want to do it either.
I know what that would feel like coming out, and I was not putting it in.
I didn't want to feel it going in.
We should have. I wish people would have seen the pre-show when me and Rocco were probably we were just downing Tums in preparation.
I see Rocco walk in with like milk, Tums,
Bread.
bread,
We
like
were-
everything, like in a bag.
I just remember trying to I would have to work up courage to speak. So I would put in the chat, be like, swing it to me in 30 seconds. And then that's how I'd be like, keep it together. And then I had 30 seconds where I'd be like, honestly, I really like this move because I think the Orioles are doing that. And then I'd be like,
Oh my God.
Oh shit.
Brad, you got some favorite moments?
God, I got so many of them. I mean, winter meetings, I know it's recency bias, but it was probably awesome. One of the highlights of the year.
That was fun.
From a personal standpoint and a show standpoint. I mean, just like having all those guests in a row was just crazy. But obviously Nick Moore and all of his pause moments.
Yeah.
Can't ignore
Taking
that.
a man from behind.
Yeah.
Oh,
taking a
no.
man-
no, that was you.
That was you. That was
That was
actually
me.
you.
That was
Yeah.
you and Jeff Pass.
Jeff Pass.
I would never say that.
But also like all the
But I
interviews
do.
that we went on location for, like the Eric DaCosta, the Mike Elias, and Calvin and David Rubenstein, and it was like that was all the fact that we got an interview with David Rubenstein and Calvin before anybody else did the day they bought the Orioles. I mean, come on, like people have no idea where this show is going, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was the funny thing with that is that it was just going to be Calvin and I sitting down.
Yeah.
And David's like, or they talked with it, and then that's what it turned into. It's like, oh, great. Sure. that works.
Yeah.
No, but it's been great to see the evolution of that, right? On the personal side, the fun side.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been some sayings on my account that are on the fun side, but overall, I mean, the winter meetings was phenomenal. We might have something else coming up in the future here that we can add to that checklist of things for the show. But this is our first year of covering sports on the Ryan Ripken Show, our first calendar year, and we appreciate all of you guys. And the reason this studio has grown in just a short amount of time, what you guys do joining the community, hitting that subscribe button and joining, being a Rips Good Kid or Holy Shirts and Pants member, it's created this. Literally, it goes right back into this.
Yep.
That table that Kevin's sitting at, that's because of you guys. So we appreciate everything that's happened. I mean, Kevin doesn't have his feet touching the ground.
No,
but
I'm
engraving.
thinking the man, the myth, the legend.
I mean,
Yeah.
from, like the OG of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
Congrats on the 80
Yeah,
I was
days.
gonna say congrats to
congratulations.
Rick. 80,000.
Unbelievable.
80,000.
Just setting the bar. man.
Unreal.
The funny thing is that just everyone knows. If they see the name,
Team keep it clean.
Team Keep
Yeah,
It
that's-
Clean.
yeah,
They
that's-
just know.
yeah.
The pinnacle engraving. We appreciate you for all the support and what you continue to do. And hopefully for the Ravens, they're able to keep it going. Goodness gracious. It would be tough if they did.
I don't know if I could.
Yeah,
I don't
let's
know
not
how
think
we
about
would deal
that.
with Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen. Anything else?
Well, yeah, I think we got to play the video on the way out.
Yeah,
don't we?
we're gonna play our highlights of the Ryan Ripken Show on the way out. So enjoy this.
Well, and also, hey Joe, I see you. I might be having something maybe tomorrow for our channel members. You know, maybe do a little. We'll have a little mingle before things go.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we got some Deep Eddie.
That's
Oh,
deep. Yeah, Deep Eddie. We're
Sponsor of the show, engraving.
we got to make some cocktails. We have a lot of room for
Late
activities.
entry is me absolutely whizzing footballs by Ryan while he was trying to hit him with the Deep Eddie. That one, and me just dominating him in that game.
Yeah, the swing.
Yeah.
I was so confused for
Yeah.
that.
That was good.
Also, moving Kevin for the sit-ups. Also,
Yeah,
so
that was almost bad.
that'd have
Oh,
been good.
that would have been so bad.
Wait,
Yeah.
we got a lot. Okay, you want to play that video for the outro for us? Should
Sign
we
'em out.
play it? All right, let's
Do the sign off.
sign off and play the video.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey guys, as always here at the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for making this an unbelievable 2024. Have a day, have a night, have a great stinking New Year's Eve. And we'll see you back here in 2025 for a new edition of the Ryan Ripken Show and what should be a hell of a 2025 year.
I'm coming.
Were you a jockstrap guy? No jock. I didn't tell you. I also choked on a dog. Kobe's my size and thicker. I see it firsthand. They shoved it right up my ass, especially in AAA. It was not fun. Couldn't get over like the skin texture or whatever. And then I actually choked on it. So after that, for a little bit of time, Kelly had to help out.
We have the second best record in all of Major League Baseball for winning home openers. So I hope I don't jinx that.
You had to bring that up.
If anything goes wrong, I'll blame Rocco.
There you go. There you go.
Rocco's ass was pretty tight. It was. We're trying to loosen it up.
What is going on your dog?
I'm a mustard guy.
Okay. I can live with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that. I eat mine plain.
Okay.
So is that okay?
There's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's kind of strange.
All right.
Ooh, pig suey. Ooh, pig suey. And then, ooh, pig suey. Razorbacks.
When you do number two, okay, you got to get the TP. Do you ball the TP or do you fold the TP?
I'm sorry. Fold?
Yeah. Fold. See?
Okay.
It's a scientific experiment, and we're thinking that the ladies primarily are the ballers and the dudes are the folders.
I didn't even.
who balled up the TP. I feel like that's reckless and just kind of.
I'm
just
a
saying.
baller. You hear that? Rocco's a baller.
Rocco's might be a woman. We don't know.
Last thing I have left is block taking another man. Take.
Whoa.
God dang it. God damn it. See, this is what happens.
Look at Joe.
You don't get this
Look at
anywhere
Joe
else.
supporting me.
So if we don't mind bringing him from behind, it's
Whoa,
Mr. Jeff Pass.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's not.
God damn it, Ryan.
You can't take it to a different level.
There you go.
Jeff,
There
sorry,
he is.
wrong choice of words right off the gate. But how you doing?
At the front, behind, whatever works for everyone else. I'm okay.
I'm dirty.
He was inching in that guy.
Come on. There's no way you don't know what you just said. There's no way you don't know what you
What?
This show's over.
All right,
This
we're
show's
done.
over.
See you, Kevin. See you, Kevin.
I'm not. Where am I going?
All right, guys. You guys have a good rest of your night. No.